6, Celia said, lifting one finger at a time. Iraq twice, Afghanistan 3 times, Kuwait, 6 deployments while Mom got sick, Dad died, the basement flooded, and this entire family kept going without you. We were sitting around our mother's dining table because Celia had refused to enter the attorney's office. She said Mom hated fluorescent lights, as if that preference remained legally binding after death. Janet Cole, the attorney, kept one hand on the open will. My Uncle Ray stared into his coffee. Ruth Bell, Mom's best friend, examined the little gold clasp on her purse like she might be tested on it later. Celia's husband, Dennis, murmured, "Maybe everybody should take a breath." Nobody did. "I stayed," Celia said. "You left 6 times, Mara. You don't get to come back at the end and pretend we did the same thing." I opened the green notebook I'd carried through 3 countries. $214,680. Celia stopped moving. She knew what the number was. That was the first thing that bothered me. "What?" Uncle Ray asked. "That's what I sent home. Mortgage payments, taxes, repairs, Mom's medical bills, Celia's tuition, home care." I looked across the table at my sister. "You counted where I went. I counted what I sent home." Celia's face changed, but not the way I expected. There was no surprise in it, no shame. There was recognition. 4 days earlier, I had pulled into Mom's driveway at 6:12 in the evening and sat behind the wheel long enough for the automatic headlights to turn themselves off. The house was a red brick Cape Cod, built when people apparently considered one electrical outlet per room an indulgence. The shutters needed paint. Moss ran along the north side of the roof I'd paid to replace 9 years ago. Somebody had planted yellow mums around the mailbox, and half of them had collapsed from thirst. My mother had been dead for 5 days. I had been retired from the Army for 23. Those 2 facts didn't fit together in any useful way. The passenger seat held a bakery box from a place outside Harrisburg, because arriving at a bereaved household empty-handed felt wrong, even when the household was mine. I'd bought an assortment of cookies after spending 7 minutes staring at the display case, while a teenager in a paper hat waited for me to choose between buttercream and thumbprints. I took both. Before I reached the porch, the front door opened. Celia stood behind the storm door in black leggings and one of Mom's old Steelers sweatshirts. At 47, she had Evelyn's pale eyes, Evelyn's blunt chin, and a narrow white streak in her dark hair that hadn't been there the last time I saw her. "You parked crooked," she said. I looked back. One tire was maybe 2 inches closer to the line where Dad used to edge the grass. I'll notify command. "You're blocking Dennis. There's room to get a truck through there. He doesn't drive a truck." I remembered Dennis. Her mouth almost moved. Almost. Then she opened the door and stepped back. "You're late," I said between 5 and 7. "You always give windows. It's a 6-hour drive. From Virginia." "Yes, I know where Virginia is." I held out the bakery box. "Cookies." Celia looked at it as if I'd brought a hubcap. Ruth already made 3 pies, then were protected from famine. That got the smallest breath through her nose. Not a laugh, but I logged it. The house smelled like furniture polish, coffee, and the lavender powder Mom used so heavily that hugging her left you smelling like a drawer sachet. Her walker was folded against the wall by the coat closet. A clean blue dish towel hung through one of the handles. I stopped looking at it. Celia took the box from me. "Shoes." "What?" "Mom had the carpets cleaned in March." I stared at her. She hated shoes in the house. Mom wore shoes in the house, not outdoor shoes. She smoked in the kitchen for 27 years. And then she quit, because Dad threw her cigarettes into the garbage disposal. He did not. I watched him. He ran water first. That one got an actual sound out of her, brief and unwilling. Then we both heard it, and the room became careful again. I removed my shoes. Dennis came down the hallway carrying a folding chair under each arm. He was a square, patient man with thinning blonde hair and the permanent look of somebody waiting for the person ahead of him to finish arguing with a cashier. He set the chairs down and hugged me, before I had decided whether we were hugging. I'm sorry, Mara. Thanks. His palm pressed once between my shoulder blades. Dennis had never been eloquent, which made him safer than most people that week. You look good, he said. I look retired. You look exactly the same. Then I looked retired at 30. He smiled, but Celia was already opening the cookie box. There are 12 kinds in here. I panicked. So you bought the store? I established options. Dennis glanced inside. Is that maple bacon? Apparently grief has gotten experimental. He reached for one. Celia slapped his hand without looking at him. Those are for tomorrow. I'm grieving tonight. You had 2 pieces of pie. I contain multitudes. I carried my duffel upstairs to my old bedroom, or what had been my old bedroom. The bed was gone. Plastic storage tubs rose in stacked columns from the floor, each labeled in Celia's handwriting. Christmas Kitchen, Easter, Mom Medical 2022, Mom Medical 2023, Winter Linens, Mara. My name was written on 3 tubs near the closet. I rested a hand on the top one, but didn't open it. A narrow air mattress had been placed between the boxes. On it were a pillow, 2 folded towels, and a note in Mom's handwriting. Don't use the flowered towel. It sheds. For several seconds, I couldn't hear anything except the furnace starting below me. The note had probably been written years ago. Mom labeled everything when she began forgetting small things, as though instructions could build a fence around confusion. The flowered towel lay beneath a plain gray one. I pulled it free and rubbed the edge between my fingers. It did shed. I sat on the air mattress, which released a slow rubber sigh. My phone showed 11 missed messages from the previous 5 days, people from my old unit, a retirement services clerk, Ruth, Uncle Ray, 2 from Celia, both practical. Mom passed at 3:40, viewing Friday 2 to 4 and 6 to 8, funeral Saturday at 10, call the funeral home about your uniform. I had called. I told them I wasn't wearing it. Celia appeared in the doorway without knocking. Her eyes went to the towel in my hands. You found the warning. Saved my life. She wrote notes for everything at the end. This doesn't look recent. No. She hated that towel for years. Why keep it? Celia leaned against the frame, because every time I tried to throw anything away, she'd ask who made me queen. That sounds like her. It stopped being funny. The words landed harder than her earlier jabs because she hadn't sharpened them first. I set the towel beside me. I'm sorry I didn't make it before. You said that on the phone. I'm saying it where you can see my face. I can see it. Okay. She crossed her arms. Her fingernails were cut painfully short, the skin around them red and split. Mom used to keep Celia's hands soft with expensive lotion every Christmas, even after Celia explained that buying the same gift annually did not make it a tradition. The hospice nurse said it could be days, I said. Then you called back 6 hours later. Yes. I was already driving. I know. I got as far as Winchester. I said I know. There are arguments where the facts matter and arguments where facts are just objects people pick up to throw. I had spent enough time in briefing rooms to recognize the second kind. I stood. What needs doing? Her laugh had no humor in it. Of course. What does that mean? You walk in, look around, and ask for a task. There are 40 people coming tomorrow. I assumed there were tasks. You want a checklist? I want to help. No, you want to be useful. It's not always the same thing. Dennis called from downstairs. Celia, where are the extension cords? She closed her eyes. Laundry room shelf, she shouted. They're not there. Then basement workbench. I looked. No, you looked the way you look. I watched her turn toward the stairs. Celia. What? I can find extension cords. For a moment, I thought she might tell me I didn't know this house anymore. Instead, she pointed down the hall. Basement door, sticks. Lift it before you pull. The workbench was still Dad's, though the basement around it had changed. His jars of bent nails and mystery screws remained mounted under the shelves. Celia had added plastic organizers, a shop vacuum, and a dehumidifier that flashed full in red letters. The extension cords were in a milk crate beneath an old canvas tarp. On top of the tarp sat a care package box with my handwriting across it. The return address was an APO in Afghanistan. I crouched and touched the corner. The customs form had yellowed. I could still read the contents I had listed in block letters. Coffee, scarf, hand cream, photographs, candy. The tape was uncut. Dennis's shoes appeared on the stairs. Find them? I slid the milk crate out. Right here. He came down and took the cords, then noticed what I was looking at. This basement has stuff from the Carter administration. I sent this. Oh, he shifted the cords to his other hand. Your mom saved everything. She didn't open it. Maybe she forgot. She called me the day it arrived, said the scarf was beautiful. Dennis looked at the sealed tape. Neither of us said anything. From upstairs, Celia called his name. He started toward the steps, then stopped. Your sister hasn't slept much since February. Did she sleep before February? Not like a civilian. I looked at him. He gave me a tired smile. I've picked up a few phrases over the years. The viewing the next day was full of adults telling me my mother had been proud of me. Ruth Bell held both my hands and said Evelyn kept every newspaper clipping that mentioned my unit. Uncle Ray told me she never missed the televised Army-Navy game, which was odd because neither I nor anyone I knew had attended West Point. A woman from Mom's church touched my sleeve and said, "You're the military daughter," as if Celia were the regular one. Celia stood 6 feet away receiving casseroles. She knew who had allergies, whose husband had surgery, and which serving dishes needed to be returned to whom. She carried safety pins, tissues, antacids, and a stain removal pen in her purse. When Uncle Ray began telling a story that embarrassed Ruth, Celia redirected him by asking about his truck. When Dennis forgot to eat, she put half a sandwich in his hand without interrupting her conversation. She had become the person people relied on. I recognized the position. I also recognized the cost of holding it too long. That evening, after the last visitor left, Janet Cole arrived at the house with Mom's will in a brown accordion folder. I can come back Monday, she said. There's no need to do this tonight. Celia was wiping fingerprints from the dining table. Tonight is fine. Janet looked at me. I said, if she says tonight, we're doing it tonight. Celia set the cloth down. Don't make me sound unreasonable. I made you sound decisive. Uncle Ray poured coffee. Ruth clasped her purse. Dennis brought in 2 folding chairs, and I sat in the place where Dad used to complain that the overhead light hit him directly in the eyes. Janet read the smaller bequests first. Jewelry to Celia and me to divide by agreement. Dad's tools the same. Cash gifts to the church and hospice. The remaining bank balance, after expenses, divided equally. Then she reached the house. My residence and real property, Janet read. To my daughters, Celia Ann Vance Mercer and Mara Jean Vance in equal shares. Celia gave one short laugh. Janet stopped reading. Equal, Celia said. Dennis put his hand flat on the table. Sell. No. I'd like to understand. She looked at me. How many times were you deployed? You know how many. I want to hear you say it. 6. Celia raised her hand and counted them anyway. Iraq twice, Afghanistan 3 times, Kuwait. She gave each place its own finger, then opened her whole hand again as though 6 required proof beyond the standard human equipment. 6 deployments while Mom got sick, Dad died, the basement flooded, and this entire family kept going without you. Celia, Dennis said. She didn't look at him. I stayed. You left 6 times, Mara. You don't get to come back at the end and pretend we did the same thing. Janet closed her mouth around whatever professional sentence she had been preparing. Uncle Ray studied his coffee. Ruth's thumb moved back and forth over the clasp of her purse. I took the green notebook from my back pocket. It was soft at the corners and held together with gray tape along the spine. Celia watched me open it. $214,680. Uncle Ray looked up. What's that? What I sent home. Celia went still. Not surprised. Still. I read from the page. Dad's mortgage arrears. The second mortgage after he died. Property taxes from 2008 through 2013. Your last 2 semesters at nursing school, the basement cleanup, furnace, roof, Mom's bridge work, co-pays, prescriptions. The stair lift she stopped using after 2 weeks. 18 months of home care wages. You wrote it all down? Celia asked. I write down money. Why? So you could do this someday? So I knew what I had. What you had? Or what we owed you? Neither. What went where? She leaned back. The chair creaked under her. You counted where I went. I counted what I sent home. Nobody spoke for several seconds. Janet shifted the will so its bottom edge lined up with the table. I liked her for that. Celia's eyes stayed on the notebook. That total includes my tuition. Yes, that was 19 years ago. It was still money. You offered, Mom asked. She said Dad's insurance covered it. It didn't. Celia's chin lifted. So all this time, you've been keeping a secret invoice. It isn't an invoice. It has a total. Because numbers do that, Mara, Dennis said quietly. I looked at him. He tapped one finger against the table, a warning or a plea. With Dennis, it could be both. Celia turned to Janet. Does any of that change the will? No, Janet said. Evelyn divided the property equally, even though I was her caregiver. Your mother was entitled to distribute her estate as she chose. What about caregiver compensation? Janet's pause was small but noticeable. There was no written agreement for compensation beyond the expenses Evelyn paid while you were caring for her. She paid for groceries, I understand. She paid the electric bill in her own house. I understand that too. You make it sound like I was an employee asking for overtime. You asked me a legal question. I'm asking a human question. Janet folded her hands. I'm probably not the person you want answering that. Ruth made a faint approving noise. Celia swung toward her. Do you have something to say? No, honey. You made a noise. At my age, most of me makes noises. Uncle Ray coughed into his fist, failing to hide a smile. Celia stared at them both. This is funny? No, Ruth said. It's terrible. That doesn't mean Janet gave you the wrong answer. My mother wanted me to have this house. Janet glanced at the open page. That isn't what the will says. She told me. When? Dozens of times. When I took her to appointments. When I bathed her. When I got up at 2 a.m. because she was trying to make coffee without water in the pot. The force of her voice struck the table and scattered into the room. I closed the notebook. Celia looked at me. Did your list include that? No. Did it include the night she fell in the pantry and lay there screaming while I waited 40 minutes for an ambulance? No. The catheter bag that leaked in my car? No. Changing her sheets every day after the radiation burned her bladder? No. Because you can't put those things in a little green book. I didn't say we did the same thing. You sat there while Janet read equal shares. That's what Mom wrote, and you're fine with that. I haven't had time to be fine with anything. Checks don't change sheets, Mara. I know. Do you? Yes. She waited, ready to fight whatever came after yes. When nothing did, some of the heat left her face, but not enough. Uncle Ray set his coffee down. Maybe this can wait until after tomorrow. Thank you, Dennis said. It already waited, Celia said. Everything waited for Mara to get here. That was untrue in at least 6 ways. I chose not to inventory them aloud. Janet reopened the accordion folder. There are a few practical matters. The estate does not have enough liquid cash to maintain the property indefinitely. You'll need to decide whether one of you intends to retain it or whether it should be sold. I'm retaining it, Celia said. Janet looked from her to me. Then you and Mara will need to agree on terms for purchasing her interest. No. Mara's signing it over. It was the certainty that got me, not the demand. The way she said it, like the papers were already on their way to the recorder's office, and my hand was a minor scheduling issue. When did I agree to that? You don't even want this house. You didn't ask me. Fine. Do you want it? I looked around the dining room. Dad's chair had a pale rub mark where his shoulder used to touch it. One of the cabinet doors hung slightly lower than the other. Mom's fake ivy was still looped above the window, catching grease and dust with equal enthusiasm. I don't know yet. Celia laughed. I gave up 20 years for this family, and you don't know. Celia, Dennis said again. No, let her answer. I did. You always get to be undecided because somebody else is holding everything together while you make up your mind. What exactly do you want tonight? I want you to do the decent thing, which is sign over your half. No. It came out without volume. That seemed to offend her more than shouting would have. Uncle Ray rubbed the side of his nose. Ruth's purse clasp clicked shut. Celia stared at me. You're serious? Yes. You're going to take half of Mom's house away from me. I can't take something you don't own. She pushed back from the table so quickly that the chair legs scraped the hardwood. Dennis stood too. Let's stop. You heard her. I did. She's been home one day. I know. And she's already talking, like this is a supply depot we need to liquidate. I didn't say sell. You said no. They're different words. Celia's eyes brightened. For 1 second, I thought she might cry. Instead, she picked up the cleaning cloth and began wiping the place where Janet's folder had rested. Janet collected her papers. I'll give both of you copies. Nothing needs to be signed tonight. Nothing's getting signed tonight, I said. Celia scrubbed harder. The funeral began at 10 the next morning under a sky the color of wet concrete. I wore a black suit I had bought for Dad's funeral and altered twice since. Celia wore Mom's pearl earrings. Dennis wore a tie with tiny blue sailboats, which I assumed he hadn't noticed until it was too late. At the cemetery, rain slipped sideways under the tent. Uncle Ray held an umbrella over Ruth and got soaked down one shoulder. Celia stood beside me with her hands locked around a folded tissue. When the minister said Evelyn had been blessed with 2 devoted daughters, Celia's jaw tightened. Mine probably did too. Afterward, everybody returned to the house and ate food brought by people who believed ham could stabilize the bereaved. There were ham biscuits, ham salad, ham baked under brown sugar, and a casserole that Dennis identified as ham adjacent. I stood near the kitchen doorway while a woman from Mom's church told me Evelyn had worried constantly during my deployments. She used to say she couldn't watch the news, the woman said. She watched the news 8 hours a day. Well, yes, but she didn't like it. Across the room, Celia was explaining the location of extra paper plates to Uncle Ray. The woman lowered her voice. Your mother always said Celia was her right hand. She was, and you were... She searched for the safest available body part. Her strength. That sounds heavy. She was so proud. People kept saying that as if pride and knowledge were interchangeable. Ruth appeared beside me after the woman moved away. You're making the face, she said. What face? The one Evelyn called your officer face. I was never an officer. She didn't care about the distinction. That was part of the problem. Ruth took a ham biscuit from her plate, removed the ham, and ate the bread. She assumed you'd give Celia the house. The sentence was so casually delivered that I nearly missed its blade. Mom told you that? She said you would do the right thing. And the right thing was whatever Celia wanted. She didn't phrase it that way. Did she ever mention the money I sent? Ruth looked down at the slice of ham she'd abandoned. Sometimes. Did she tell Celia? I assumed Celia knew. Celia's voice carried from the dining room. She was laughing at something Dennis had said. It sounded normal enough to be cruel. What did Mom call it? I asked. Ruth hesitated. Your allotment. Like it came automatically. I think she was embarrassed. By taking it? By needing it. That answer felt true, which made it harder to use. Near 3, the last casserole left with its owner. Uncle Ray took the folding chairs to the garage. Ruth kissed my cheek and told me not to make permanent decisions while angry. Dennis went outside to rearrange cars. Celia came into the dining room carrying a manila folder. I had these prepared before Mom died, she said. Inside was a blank deed transferring my interest in the property to her. You expected me to sign this. I expected you to understand. I put it back on the table. We get the house appraised, I said. You buy my half, I buy yours, or we sell. You can't afford to buy me out. Then that narrows the options. Her face hardened. You don't even live here. I do tonight. For how long? I thought of the sealed care package in the basement and my name written on 3 plastic tubs upstairs, long enough to find out what else got decided for me. Celia held my gaze, then looked past me toward the front windows. You'll last 3 days. Maybe. You hate this town. I hate the intersection by the giant eagle. The light is badly timed. You know what I mean. I know what you want me to mean. She took the manila folder and shoved it into her purse. The purse was Mom's, brown leather with a brass E on the clasp. I wondered if Celia had inherited it by agreement or proximity. Lock the back door, she said. It doesn't catch unless you pull it toward you. I remember. You haven't lived here since you were 18. Doors haven't advanced that much. She walked into the kitchen and began stacking cups that were already stacked. Celia could make an exit take 20 minutes if there were surfaces available. Dennis came in from outside, rubbing his hands together. Ray got out. He left 10 minutes ago, Celia said. His Buick was behind me. You could have asked him to move. I did. He said you needed more time to cool down. My uncle blocked you in as therapy? I think that was the concept. Celia took her coat from the peg by the basement door. Dennis looked at me over her shoulder, then wisely looked elsewhere. I'll be back in the morning, she said. For what? To start sorting. What time? Early. A time, Celia, 8. I'll be ready. She buttoned her coat. You don't have to sound like we're invading Normandy. I wasn't at Normandy. Dennis pressed his lips together. Celia opened the back door, pulled it toward her, and locked it with enough force to demonstrate the technique. Dennis lingered after she stepped onto the porch. I'm going to warm up the car, he called to her. No, you're going to apologize for me. I can do both. The door shut. He turned to me. I'm not apologizing for her. Good. I'm explaining. Less good. His shoulders dropped. She moved in here last February, mostly. She'd come home to shower, get clothes, yell at me for loading the dishwasher wrong, then come back. How do you load it? Efficiently. So wrong. He nodded. She slept in that recliner 6 months because your mother got scared when she woke up alone. I didn't know that. Celia didn't want you to. Why? She said you were retiring. You had enough going on. I leaned against the table. I asked every time I called. I know. Mom said they had a system. They did. It was a bad system, but they had one. Did you know about the money? Some of it. The roof, the furnace, the home care service. He rubbed his palm over his scalp. Not your total. Celia did. I don't know what Celia knew. She knew what the number meant. She probably knew it wasn't your bowling average. I don't bowl. That helps my point. He took his keys from his pocket, then put them back. She thought Evelyn was leaving her the house. So did everybody, apparently. Your mom said it, not to me. No? Did it occur to anyone to ask? Dennis looked at the dining table, now bare, except for a water ring and one bent paper clip Janet had left behind. Honestly? No. It was hard to get angry at him for telling the truth when I had spent 2 days resenting everyone else for not doing it. He pulled open the back door. Dennis. He waited. I know what she did here. Do you? I know it wasn't nothing. That's not what I asked. Celia honked from the driveway. He gave me a tired look. Nobody's at their best this week. I might be. That would make you the scariest one. After they left, the house developed its nighttime sounds. Pipes ticking, furnace rumbling, a branch dragging lightly across the siding. Mom's refrigerator made a click, followed by a deep groan, as if disappointed by what it had found inside itself. I checked both doors and every first-floor window. I emptied the dehumidifier. I moved the walker from the hallway into the coat closet, then moved it back because hiding it felt worse. At 10, I went to the basement for the care package. The box was lighter than I remembered boxes being, but maybe I was remembering carrying them when every package contained something needed. This one had crossed an ocean and returned without moving. I set it at the foot of the air mattress. The tape could wait. At 7:18 the next morning, a tape gun made a ripping sound directly beneath my head. I sat up fast enough to make the mattress squeal. Celia had said 8. Downstairs, cabinet doors opened and shut. Something ceramic clinked. I pulled on jeans and found her in the kitchen surrounded by boxes, tissue paper, colored stickers, and 3 travel mugs of coffee. You're early. You were awake. I am now. She handed me a mug. Mine had World's OK Sister printed on it. Whose is this? Yours? I bought it 6 Christmases ago. I don't remember getting it. You weren't here that year. Then how is it mine? I sent you a picture. Generous. You said it was funny. It is funny. Then drink. The coffee had cream in it, no sugar. She remembered. Celia pointed toward a sheet of paper taped to the refrigerator. Red stickers are keep. Blue or donate. Yellow or sell. Anything we disagree on goes on the dining table. What color means trash? Trash means trash. That system lasted 4 seconds. You want a black sticker? I want us not to throw out something the other person hasn't seen. She took a long breath through her nose. Fine. Black is review for trash. There are no black stickers. I'll buy black stickers. Then we'll need a 5th color for things that are actually trash. Her mouth twitched. This is why people didn't invite you to planning meetings. People invited me exclusively to planning meetings. Exactly. We started with the upper cabinets. Mom owned 37 mugs, including 5 with faded photographs of other people's pets. She had 4 deviled egg plates, 2 gravy boats, a fondue set still in plastic, and a ceramic goose wearing a bonnet. Keep, Celia said, sticking red on the goose. Why? It was Grandma's. Grandma had bad taste, too. You can't donate Grandma's goose. I think Grandma would respect decisive action. Red. Fine. The first disagreement went on to the dining table. A blue glass serving bowl. Celia remembered Mom using it for potato salad. I remembered Dad using it to catch oil under the lawnmower. We may both be right, I said. That's disgusting. He washed it. With what? Probably a rag. She held the bowl farther from her body. Blue sticker. We agree. At 10, Dennis arrived with breakfast sandwiches. He studied the dining table where the blue bowl sat beside a chipped Santa cookie jar, 6 silver napkin rings, and a framed watercolor of a barn. This where the divorced items go? He asked. We were never married, I said. Could have fooled me. Celia handed him the ceramic goose. Put this in my car. Absolutely not. It was Grandma's. That goose watches me sleep. You don't have to keep it in the bedroom. That was the compromise. He carried it outside anyway. By noon, we had cleared 7 cabinets and filled 1 donation box. Celia kept almost everything. I kept almost nothing, which irritated her more. You don't want Mom's Christmas dishes. I live alone. You have people over. I own regular plates. They have holly. I've seen them. She stacked the dishes into a red stickered box. This is what I mean. None of it matters to you. I wanted the cast iron skillet. You got the skillet. I know. You took 1 pan from your mother's entire kitchen. It was Dad's pan. That's worse. How? Because you can't even choose something that was hers. I looked around the kitchen. Mom's curtains were printed with tiny strawberries. A grocery list in her handwriting remained tucked behind the phone. Milk, bananas, cinnamon, stamps. The cinnamon was underlined twice. I don't need to own something to miss her. That sounds convenient. I picked up the black marker and wrote Mara on the skillet's red sticker. Celia turned away first. After lunch, I called a local appraisal company from the porch. The woman who answered could come Wednesday morning. She asked whether both owners would provide access. One of us will, I said. Celia, listening through the open window, said, Both of us will. I confirmed the appointment. When I came back inside, she had spread bills across the dining table where the disputed objects had been. Property tax installment is due next month, she said. Insurance renews in 6 weeks. Electric, gas, water. We use estate funds until they're exhausted. They're nearly exhausted now. Funeral costs haven't cleared. Then we split expenses. I can't. You can't, or you don't want to. Her eyes narrowed. I cut my hospital hours to 1 shift a week. I know. No, you know the sentence. You don't know what it means. It means we need to make a decision about the house sooner. It means you still have a pension coming in and I lost 5 years of income. Then selling may be the practical option. You've been here 48 hours, and the tax bill has been here longer. She swept the bills into a pile. You really can do this to anything. Do what? Make it sound like a maintenance problem. A house with bills is partly a maintenance problem. It's Mom's house. Mom is dead, Celia. The room went silent. I wished the sentence back before the last word had finished leaving me. Celia pressed both palms flat on the table. The skin around her nails was split and red. I'm aware, she said. I shouldn't have said it like that. How should you say it? I don't know. Put it in your notebook. Work on it. She carried the bills into the kitchen. I went upstairs because following her would have been about easing my discomfort, not hers. The care package sat where I had left it. Someone had placed a black sticker on top. Review, Celia had written. I took my pocket knife from the duffel and cut through the tape. The smell that came out was stale coffee and old sugar. Inside were 2 hardened bags of candy, a bottle of hand cream, photographs sealed in plastic, and a blue wool scarf with silver threads woven through it. I lifted the scarf. Mom had told me it was beautiful. She had said she wore it to Celia's nursing pinning ceremony, and everyone complimented her. Beneath it lay the letter I had written from Afghanistan, still folded in its envelope. On the front, in my own handwriting, were the words, Mom. Open this one first. I opened it anyway. The paper had gone soft at the folds. My handwriting leaned hard to the right, the way it did whenever I wrote on my knee. Mom, open this before you call me and complain about the coffee. The scarf is for Celia's pinning, not Christmas. You said your navy dress makes you look like a funeral director, so wear the gray one. Tell Celia I'm sorry I can't be there. Don't tell her I said she'll be the meanest nurse in Pennsylvania. She already knows. There were 2 more pages. I had described our mechanic trying to catch a mouse with a protein bar wrapper and a length of commo wire. I had asked whether Dad's truck still pulled to the left. I had told Mom I might be able to call the morning of the ceremony if our movement schedule changed. At the bottom, I had written, I know you 2 are doing the hard part. I'm trying to do mine. I sat on the air mattress with the scarf across my lap. The coffee in the box had been expensive by deployment standards. I remembered buying it from another soldier whose wife mailed too much, then trading 2 drink powders for a padded envelope because I worried the original bag would split. I'd spent an entire evening finding silver tissue paper in a place where people stole toilet paper from portable bathrooms. Mom never opened it. She told me the scarf looked beautiful. I had built a memory around that sentence. Mom in her gray dress, Celia in white pretending not to be nervous, the silver threads catching camera flash. I had seen the scene so many times it felt witnessed. Celia stopped in the doorway. What did you do? What does it look like? I put a review sticker on it. I reviewed it. She saw the scarf, then the open letter. Her expression tightened. You shouldn't go through Mom's things without me. I mailed this. It was in her basement, with my name and the return address. That doesn't make the whole box yours. It literally does. She came farther into the room. Why are you always like this? Accurate? Cold. I held up the scarf. Did she wear this to your pinning? Celia glanced at it. No. You're sure? Yes. She said she did. She wore a blue jacket and pearls. She hated gray. She told me the gray dress was her favorite. Mom didn't own a gray dress. I looked down at the letter. Celia's eyes moved to the customs form still attached to the box. When did you send that? The year you graduated. That doesn't answer the question. October. My ceremony was in December. I know. Maybe she planned to open it later. She called me and thanked me for everything in it. Celia folded her arms. Then I don't know. You never saw the box? I saw hundreds of boxes. From Afghanistan, from everywhere. Catalog orders, medical supplies, stuff from Ruth. My handwriting is on it. I wasn't inventorying your mail, Mara. I was working. I wanted to answer that I had been working, too. The sentence rose automatically, polished by years of use, and stopped behind my teeth. Celia picked up one of the photographs. It showed me standing beside a tan-armored truck, sunglasses hiding half my face. 3 people from my unit leaned into the frame. Somebody had drawn a mustache on me with a black marker before the picture was printed. "You looked young," she said. "I was 30. You looked 20. I was dehydrated." She put it down. Maybe Mom forgot she didn't open it. She knew what was inside. It's listed on the form. She described the scarf. You described it in the letter. The unopened letter. Celia rubbed one thumb over a split beside her fingernail. "What do you want me to say?" "I don't know. That seems to be your answer for everything. Maybe I want you to find it strange." "It's strange." "You sound annoyed at me. Because you're sitting up here looking like you discovered Mom had a second family. I discovered a conversation I remember didn't happen. She lied about a scarf. Why?" "I don't know. Maybe she was embarrassed she forgot. Maybe she wanted you to feel appreciated. Maybe she opened it and taped it again." I turned the box toward her. The tape I had cut was one continuous strip beneath the customs label. "Fine," she said. She lied. The admission did not feel as good as I expected. Celia picked up the hand cream, read the label, and put it back. She lied to me too. About what? Things. Specific. "You don't get to interrogate me because you found old coffee." "Then why mention it?" "Because you're making that face like you were the only person Mom ever disappointed." She left before I could ask what face. The appraisal took place Wednesday morning in a steady drizzle. The appraiser was a woman named Cheryl Mills who wore rubber-soled shoes and carried a laser measure. She had the soothing voice of someone who had learned not to react when homeowners explained that wallpaper was coming back. Celia followed her from room to room, pointing out improvements. "New furnace," she said. 9 years old, I added, which is practically new for a furnace. Cheryl entered something into her tablet. "Roof was replaced," Celia said. 9 years ago, too. "I know how old the roof is. You just described the furnace as new. They're different systems." Cheryl aimed the laser down the hallway. A red dot appeared on the wall beside Mom's framed print of 2 ducks flying over reeds. "The upstairs bath was renovated," Celia said. Cheryl looked at the pink tile. "In 1998, I said. "That's still renovated, relative to the Korean War." Cheryl's mouth tightened for half a second. We moved into the kitchen. "Original cabinets," Celia said, sounding as though she had personally protected them from vandals. "One outlet doesn't work," I said. "It works. It sparked when I plugged in the toaster. That toaster is old. Electricity shouldn't become decorative because it dislikes an appliance." Cheryl cleared her throat. "I'll note that the electrical system may need evaluation." Celia glared at me. "Are you trying to lower the value? If you plan to buy my half, I'd think you would appreciate that. I want an honest value." "So do I. You're announcing defects like an auctioneer. I'm answering questions." "Nobody asked about the toaster." The toaster asked. Cheryl walked into the dining room before either of us could see whether she was smiling. In the attic, she pointed to a brown stain on the decking near the chimney. "Has there been water intrusion?" "No," Celia said. "Yes," I said. Celia looked up sharply. "When? The stain is damp. How would you know?" I touched it. "You climbed up here before?" "Monday." "Without telling me?" "I was looking for a suitcase." "In the attic?" "That's a traditional suitcase habitat." Cheryl crouched near the stain. "This could be flashing. You'll want a roofer to assess it." "I already called one," Celia said. I stared at her. "When?" "Last week. Before the funeral?" "It rained last week." And he said we may need the whole south section replaced." "Who?" "Mick Dorsey. From high school. He owns a roofing company. He sold fake concert tickets from his locker. That was 30 years ago. It indicates a flexible relationship with value." Cheryl stood. I don't make repair recommendations, but multiple estimates are generally useful. Thank you, I said. Celia's voice went flat. We'll do that. Cheryl promised the report by Friday. We watched from the porch as she walked to her car beneath a large green umbrella. The moment the door closed, Celia turned on me. You made the house sound condemned. I told her an outlet sparked and the roof is wet. She could see the roof. Not if you kept saying no. I didn't know it was damp. That's why I checked. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. You sneak around inspecting things, then wait until somebody else is here to announce what you found. I wasn't staging an ambush over chimney flashing. You enjoyed correcting me. A little. Unbelievable. At least I admit it. She marched into the kitchen and opened the cabinet under the sink. Mick can start Monday. Start what? The roof. Not until we have other estimates. He gave me a fair price. What price? $16,000 for the south section, gutters, and chimney flashing. I laughed once. Her head snapped around. What? Nothing. That wasn't nothing. That was $16,000. You haven't even seen his proposal. Neither have you. If you had, it would be on the table in a plastic sleeve. He told me over the phone. We get 3 written estimates. While we wait, more water gets in. I'll tarp the area. You? I've tarped larger roofs. In Afghanistan? Kuwait, actually. Sandstorm took off half a maintenance bay. This isn't one of your deployments. No, it's a wet spot the size of a dinner plate. You always do that. Do what? Make the thing in front of me smaller because you've seen worse. I leaned against the counter. $16,000 is not smaller. You know what I mean. I did. Rain ticked against the kitchen window. Celia took Mom's grocery list from behind the phone, flattened it, and put it back. I called Mick because I needed somebody to come, she said. He came, and he saw 2 women with an estate and quoted half a roof. He came the day Mom stopped eating. I couldn't go into the attic. I couldn't even leave the bedroom for more than 5 minutes. You could have called me. What would you have done? Found a roofer. From Virginia? Yes. Sent money? If that was what helped. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. That was always what helped, wasn't it? Sometimes. Every time Mom said she wouldn't go into assisted living, you sent more. Every time the house needed something, you fixed it from somewhere else. You made it possible for her to stay here. You say that like it was bad. I'm saying you didn't have to live with what it meant. The rain grew louder. Mom had asked me about assisted living twice. Both times she said Celia was trying to put her away because caring had become inconvenient. I had paid for additional home care hours and told myself I had preserved Mom's dignity. Did you want her to move? I asked. Celia pulled a trash bag from the roll so hard it tore down the side. I wanted her safe. That's not what I asked. I wanted one night where I could turn off my phone. You could have told me, and then what? You would have called her. She would have cried. You would have sent another check, and I would have been the selfish one again. I never called you selfish. You didn't have to. She threw the torn bag into the trash. I looked at her hands. Why didn't you tell me the truth? Why didn't you come see it? Neither of us had an answer that didn't indict us. Dennis arrived after lunch with an extension ladder tied to the roof of his sedan, which made the car look like it had made a poor career choice. Celia met him in the driveway. I told you not to encourage her. I own a ladder cell, and somehow it drove itself here. I'm not letting either of you climb onto a wet roof. We waited until the rain stopped. Dennis held the ladder while I checked the flashing from the edge. It had pulled away near one corner of the chimney. The shingles around it were worn but intact. Mick said, "Half the roof?" Dennis asked. That was his phone estimate. He must have a boat payment. From below, Celia said, "I can hear both of you." Dennis looked up at me. She always could. I applied a temporary seal and covered the area. It wasn't a permanent repair, but it would hold until we had estimates. When I came down, Celia was standing with her arms folded. "You could fall," she said. "So could you. I wasn't on the roof. That significantly reduced your risk." Dennis took the ladder before she could hit either of us with it. That evening, after Celia left, I found 3 black stickers on the disputed objects in the dining room. Review for trash. One was on the watercolor. One was on the Santa jar. The third was stuck to my green notebook. I carried it into the kitchen where Celia had left the estate bills in a careful stack. On top was the invoice from the home care service. The monthly amount matched the transfers I had begun sending 18 months earlier. In the memo line, Mom had written, Mara, home. Not home care, just home. I checked the next invoice. Mara, home. The one beneath it said the same thing. Mom's handwriting changed across the months, the letters growing larger and less steady, but the label remained. She had turned me into a funding category. Electric, gas, water, Mara. I took the invoices upstairs and placed them beside the open care package. For a while, I sat with the blue scarf in one hand and the home care bills in the other, as though they might explain each other if held close enough. My phone rang at 9:46. Tasha Grant's name appeared on the screen. We had worked together for 11 years, separated by promotions, assignments, and one spectacular disagreement about whether a vehicle with smoke coming from the dashboard could be described as mission capable. I answered. You alive? She asked. Technically, funeral, done. Family, also technically alive. Your sister throw anything? Words. Those leave bruises. I looked at the black sticker on my notebook. Mom left us the house equally. That sounds fair. Don't say that where Celia can hear you. Did she expect all of it? Everybody did. Did you? I expected nothing. Tasha was quiet. What? I asked. You expect nothing the way other people expect a parade? Very thoroughly. I don't know what that means. You say that a lot for somebody who spent 24 years telling everybody else exactly what things meant. I leaned back against the wall. The air mattress squeaked. How's Georgia? I asked. Coward, tactician, hot. Lewis backed a forklift into a pallet of bottled water and blamed depth perception. He has 2 eyes. Apparently, they aren't a team. She paused. You call about the fleet job? No. Mara. My mother died. They know. I told them. You told them? You gave me as a reference. That didn't make you my agent. I'm expanding my portfolio. I could hear her television in the background and a spoon striking a bowl. Ordinary noise from an ordinary night in a home I had visited twice and never stayed long enough to learn. I don't know if I want it, I said. The job? Any job. Then don't take one. That's your advice? For a month. Sit still and annoy your relatives. I'm accomplishing half of that. You never learned how to sit still. I'm sitting now. On what? An air mattress. That doesn't count. Air mattresses are temporary by definition. After we hung up, I returned the invoices to the dining table. The scarf stayed upstairs. Uncle Ray arrived at 8 the next morning in his Buick, carrying 6 flattened boxes tied with twine. He wore a canvas coat stained with varnish and a cap advertising a heating company that had closed in 2004. Celia says you need boxes. Celia owns boxes. These are good ones. They're cardboard. Double wall. I took them. He followed me into the kitchen, where I had made coffee strong enough to make Mom complain from whichever side of eternity had received her. Ray poured a cup without asking. You staying a while? That's the current threat. He nodded toward the dining room. Celia says you got an appraiser. We both got an appraiser. She was standing next to me. House is worth a lot more than when your dad bought it. That's generally how 40 years works. Taxes, too. I've noticed. He blew across his coffee. You need the money? There it was. Not, do you want the house? Not, what are you thinking? Need was cleaner. If I didn't need it, giving it up could be called generosity instead of surrender. Does Celia? She took care of your mother. I know. For 5 years. I know that, too. She stepped away from her career. Ray, I'm not picking sides. You drove over with 6 boxes and a talking point. He rubbed his thumb along the cup handle. Your mother told me Celia would get the house. She told Janet something different. Maybe she thought you girls would work it out. By me signing my half away, you have your retirement. Celia has a husband and a nursing license. That's not the same. No, it isn't. Ray looked toward the hall, then lowered his voice even though nobody else was there. Money's not the same as being here. I know. Why does that mean it counts as nothing? I didn't say nothing. Name the amount that would make it something. He stared into his cup. I regretted the question, not because it was unfair, but because it was shaped like a trap and I had watched too many people use traps when they wanted to avoid hearing an answer. Ray set the cup down. Your dad would have hated this. Dad hated waiting at the pharmacy. He wanted you two to look after each other. Then he should have left clearer instructions. He died at 61, Mara. I don't think he planned the timing. That landed. Ray's brother had dropped in the driveway while scraping ice from his truck. I had been in Kuwait when Celia called, and by the time I got home, the casseroles had already started leaving. I'm sorry, I said. He nodded once. On his way out, he stopped beside the coat closet and touched Mom's walker. She gave me hell the first time I brought that thing in. She gave everybody hell. No, she gave Celia work. She gave the rest of us hell. Then he left, and I stood in the hallway with 6 excellent boxes. Celia arrived at 9 carrying black stickers. Now we're fully operational, I said. She put the roll on the counter. Ray stopped by? Delivered cardboard and emotional leverage. I didn't ask him to talk to you. Did you tell him I hired an appraiser? We hired one. Apparently we agree. He worries. He recruits badly. She looked toward his unwashed coffee cup in the sink. What did you say? That Dad should have written clearer instructions. Her expression changed. That was cruel. I apologized. To Ray? Yes. Interesting. What? You can do it? I handed her the black stickers. Basement? The basement took longer because everything down there carried a story or threatened mold. We found Dad's fishing rods, Mom's artificial Christmas tree, 2 broken lamps, and a box labeled Taxes 1999 that contained no tax records but did contain a fondue cookbook, 6 cassette tapes, and 1 left shoe. Celia held up the shoe. Keep? Black sticker. For review? For testing. The right one may return. We worked around each other better than we had in the kitchen. She wrapped glass while I built boxes. I lifted. She labeled. When the dehumidifier flashed full, we both reached for it and bumped shoulders. Mine, she said. I have it. You don't know where I empty it. It's water, not classified material. There's a drain behind the furnace. I've been emptying it in the utility sink. That splashes. The sink has survived. She released the handle. Fine. It was such a small surrender that I almost thanked her. I knew better. At the workbench, a clean rectangle showed through the dust beneath the pegboard. Where's Dad's red toolbox? Celia kept folding a moving blanket. Dennis might have it. Why? Tools. Specific. He borrowed things sometimes. The entire box? I don't know, Mara. You moved it. I cleared this area after the flood. Where did you move it? Probably our garage. Probably. She slapped the folded blanket onto a plastic tub. Do you want me to call Dennis and make him leave work to look for a toolbox? No. I'll ask him later. Or you could trust me when I say it's safe. I asked where it was. And I answered. You gave me 3 possible locations and 1 husband. She picked up the black marker. This is exactly why I didn't tell you every detail when Mom was sick. What is? Every answer becomes an inspection. Every answer changes when I ask twice. We stood on opposite sides of Dad's workbench. Behind Celia, the open milk crate held old paint cans and a bundle of wooden stakes. Behind me, Dad's jars of crooked nails remained screwed beneath the shelf, each one visible and exactly where he had put it. I want the toolbox, I said. Why? Because it was Dad's. So was the skillet. I'm allowed to want 2 things. You barely visited him. The sentence came fast before either of us could dress it up. I was stationed in Germany for 3 of those years. You came home twice. I came home when I could. He asked for you. I called him every Sunday. He wanted you in the room. I wanted that too. Then why weren't you? I looked at her. because wanting something wasn't transportation. She turned away and carried the moving blanket to the donation pile, though it had no sticker. At noon, the first roofing estimate arrived by email. Repair the chimney flashing, replace 12 damaged shingles, clean the gutters, and reseal 2 vents. $1,850. Celia read it twice. Maybe they missed something. They inspected the same area Mick saw. Mick was here during heavy rain. Mick quoted $16,000 over the phone. He said it could be that much. That's a useful detail. I wasn't signing a contract without talking to you. You scheduled him to start Monday. I scheduled him to hold the date. With what deposit? She looked at me. How much? $500. From where? My account. I set down the estimate. Call him. I will. Now. Don't order me. Then keep paying him. Her face flushed. She pulled out her phone and walked upstairs. 10 minutes later, she came down without the coat she'd been wearing. Well, he's refunding it. All of it? Yes. What did you say? That if he didn't, I'd spend the rest of the week calling every woman we went to high school with. I smiled before I could stop myself. Celia pointed at me. Don't. I didn't say anything. You made a face. A respectful face. You look terrible when you respect people. The second estimate came in at $2,300. We chose the first company and agreed to split whatever remained after the estate account covered utilities. For nearly an hour, we behaved like 2 adults completing a necessary task. Then the appraisal report arrived. The house, as it stood, was valued at $296,000. Celia read the figure on my phone. Her shoulders sank so slightly I might have missed it if I hadn't spent years watching people pretend bad news had not reached them. That's too high, she said. You spent Wednesday arguing that the cabinets were historic. They are original. You said that with pride. I can't buy you out at that number. There was no accusation in her voice yet. That made it harder. You don't know until you talk to a lender. I know what Dennis makes. I know what I make. I know what we owe on our place. We don't have to decide today. How long are you giving me? This isn't me giving you something. There it is. What? The voice you use when you've already decided and want everyone else to admire how reasonable you were. I haven't decided. You called an appraiser. You got roof estimates. You're dividing expenses. Those are things we needed. You're preparing to sell. I'm preparing to have choices. Celia handed back the phone. You always had choices, she said. That's the part you never counted. She picked up the box holding Mom's Christmas dishes and carried it upstairs. On the dining table, beneath the appraisal report, she had left a yellow legal pad. At the top, in her handwriting, were 5 years of dates, shifts missed, appointments attended, and nights spent in the recliner. At the bottom, she had written a total number of hours. She had been counting, too. The number was 9,412. Celia had divided it into categories: medical appointments, pharmacy runs, meals, overnight supervision, missed shifts, bathing, laundry, emergencies. The hours weren't uniform and some overlapped. She had drawn arrows in the margins, corrected totals, and written conservative beside 3 entries. She came back down carrying an empty Christmas dish box. Well, she asked. I kept my hand on the legal pad. Well, what? How does my number look next to yours? They measure different things. That didn't stop you at the will reading. You counted my deployments first, and you had a total ready. I've had that page for years. You just happened to carry it into the room? I carry that notebook everywhere. Why? Because I do. That's not an answer. It's the one I have. She set the box down. 9,412 hours. And I left out the time before Mom's cancer came back. I can see that. Do those count? Yes. All of them? Yes. What are they worth? I looked at her. You had a dollar amount, she said. Give me one. No. Why not? Because whatever number I say will be wrong. You could use my hourly rate. You weren't providing nursing care every hour. Her lips parted. That came out wrong, I said. No, it came out exactly right. I mean, some of these categories are things families do. Meals, laundry, sitting with somebody for 5 years. I know, while working. I know. Then what's your objection? I don't have one. You always have one. I'm not putting a price on it because then we'll start pretending one of us can pay the other and be finished. She looked at the page between us. What did you think your $214,000 did? Helped? You think it didn't buy you out? No, it bought you out every time. I pushed the pad toward her. Write that at the bottom if you want. I don't need your permission. Good. Stop agreeing with me like that. Like what? Like you're handling a difficult subordinate. I didn't have subordinates at my mother's dining table. You have them everywhere. She snatched up the pad. The anger in her was familiar now, but the fear beneath it wasn't. 9,412 hours had been her answer to my notebook. She'd expected me to challenge the math or convert her labor into a smaller sum. Refusing the contest left her holding a weapon I would not pick up. She tucked the pad beneath the Christmas dishes. Were all 6 deployments orders? She asked. The question was quiet enough that I almost answered too quickly. No. Her eyes lifted. What does that mean? It means some were. You volunteered? For 2. Celia stared at me. I could have explained. I could have told her about the re-enlistment bonus that cleared Dad's second mortgage, or the deployment differential that covered the home care service when Mom refused to move. Instead, I watched Celia hear the worst version first. You chose to go. I chose a lot of things. Which 2? Not now. You threw 6 deployments in my face, but now you don't want to discuss them? You threw them. You volunteered to leave us. I volunteered for work. People do work here. Don't. Don't what? Turn every job I ever did into running away. Then tell me why you went. The answer pressed behind my ribs. It was not a single clean reason, and Celia would have distrusted anything that complicated. Money, duty, habit, a unit short on experience, a marriage already failing. Mom's calls. My own relief at receiving orders no one could negotiate with. Not now, I said again. She gave a small nod, the kind people use when a suspicion has been confirmed. Dennis walked in carrying a paper bag. I brought Italian, he announced. I sensed carbohydrates were needed. Celia picked up the box and walked past him. He watched her climb the stairs. Did I get the timing wrong? You got the decade wrong. He set the food on the kitchen counter. What happened? I told her I volunteered for 2 deployments. Dennis took a slow breath. Why would you do that? It was true. I meant, why would you volunteer? Long story. We're all unemployed by this conversation. I have time. You're not unemployed. I might be if I keep bringing ladders here. He took foil containers from the bag and arranged them on the counter. Baked ziti, salad, garlic bread, and something covered in cheese that might once have been a vegetable. Celia called the credit union, he said. For the house. She has an appointment tomorrow. Good. That's a flexible use of good. She should know her options. She knows our options better than I do. I just nod where she puts the sticky notes. Do you want the house? Dennis leaned against the counter. That question gets me killed either way. She isn't here. She's on the 2nd floor of a house built without insulation. She can hear my socks. A drawer opened above us. Dennis lowered his voice anyway. I want her to stop looking like she's still waiting for your mother to call. That isn't an answer. Maybe your family has enough direct answers for 1 week. We ate at the kitchen table. Celia came down after Dennis carried a plate upstairs and told her the garlic bread would lose structural integrity if she waited. Nobody mentioned deployments. The next morning, she attended the credit union appointment in a navy blazer and black pants. The blazer pulled slightly across her shoulders. She had worn it to the funeral home when we arranged Mom's service, and before that, she told Dennis, to a job interview 3 years earlier. What happened with the job? I asked. She checked her purse for the 3rd time. I didn't take it. Why? Mom had started radiation. Dennis held out her car keys. Call me after. I'll be back in an hour. Call me anyway. She kissed his cheek, then seemed surprised she had done it in front of me. After she left, Dennis began gathering coffee cups. "Would you take less?" he asked. I looked at him. "For your half," he said. "Not nothing, just less. Has Celia asked you to negotiate?" "No." "Then don't." His face reddened. "I'm trying to figure out what we can do. With your house, townhouse, and we still owe on it. Would you sell it? Maybe. Does Celia know that? We've discussed it. Discussed selling or discussed maybe?" He stacked 2 cups inside each other, then separated them when they stuck. "I'm not asking you to give anything away," he said. "I know what you sent. I know you paid for the roof over my head during nursing school, too. You weren't married then. We were dating. Then technically, I financed your courtship. That explains why it was so cheap." I smiled. Dennis put the cups by the sink. "She thinks if she loses this house, all those years disappear. I can't fix that with a deed." "I know. Do you?" "Yes, Mara, I do." His voice sharpened for the first time. "And I know she's treating you like you're trying to steal something. You're not. But knowing that doesn't make me excited to watch my wife lose the only reward she let herself believe was coming." The kitchen clock ticked behind him. "What do you want me to do? Give her time to find out what's possible. How much? A month?" I thought about the tax bill, utilities, insurance, the repair scheduled for the following week, and the estate balance shrinking around funeral expenses. 30 days, I said. We keep sorting. We split necessary costs after the estate account runs out. If she can finance a fair buyout, we discuss it. If she can't, we discuss selling. Dennis nodded. "That's fair. Don't tell her you negotiated it." "I didn't. You just did. I asked a question and walked out with terms." He considered that. "You really did this for a living, didn't you? Something adjacent." Celia returned 43 minutes later. She placed her purse on the counter, removed her blazer, and hung it over a chair. "Well?" Dennis asked. "They need documents." "Which ones?" "All of them, apparently. Tax returns, pay stubs, mortgage statement, the value of our place, proof of Dennis's pension contributions." "I don't have a pension," he said. "Then proof that you don't have one. How do I prove an absence?" "Ask them." I did. They said, "Bring the statement." "The statement from my imaginary pension?" Celia closed her eyes. "Please don't make me solve that right now." He touched her shoulder. She let him. I told her the 30-day proposal. Her eyes moved from me to Dennis. "You discussed this while I was gone." He asked how much time. "So you negotiated my mother's house over coffee." "Your mother's house has 2 owners," I said. "There." That voice. What voice? The fair voice. The one that makes me want to throw something. Dennis moved the ceramic sugar bowl out of her reach. 30 days, she said. "And then you list it? And then we decide." "You'll decide." "No." "We will." She looked unconvinced, but she nodded. We spent the afternoon in Mom's bedroom. The room had remained almost untouched since hospice removed the medical bed. Pale rectangles marked the carpet where its wheels had stood. Celia had remade Mom's old bed with the blue quilt, though no one had slept in it for months. She opened the closet. There was no gray dress. Celia noticed me looking. "I told you. I believed you." That must hurt. It's unfamiliar. We divided clothes into donation bags. Celia kept 2 cardigans and Mom's gardening coat. I chose a faded red flannel shirt that still smelled faintly of lavender powder. At the dresser, we found jewelry in 3 different boxes and loose in the drawers. Celia touched the pearls she had worn to the funeral. "I borrowed them," she said. "I didn't ask." "You looked. I have eyes." "You make accusations with your eyes. It saves time." She took off the pearls and placed them on the dresser. "I don't want them," I said. "Neither do I now. You wore them because they were hers. I wore them because she asked me to." "When?" "Before she died." I waited. Celia picked at the clasp. "She said you wouldn't care about the jewelry." "I don't, mostly." "Mostly?" I selected a pair of silver earrings shaped like leaves. Dad had given them to Mom on their 25th anniversary after forgetting the anniversary until 4 that afternoon. These. Celia nodded. I put the earrings beside my red flannel shirt. She told me you didn't want calls during your last deployment, Celia said. I looked up. Mom said you asked us not to call unless she was dying. I said not to call my work number unless it was urgent. My personal phone still worked. She said calls distracted you. She called me. When? Every Thursday. Celia's hand stopped over the jewelry box. No, she didn't. Yes. She told me she hadn't heard from you in weeks. We spoke almost every week. About what? Her appointments? The home care bills? The basement drain? You? What about me? She said you wanted her out of the house because caring for her was interfering with your job. Celia went pale. I never said that. I know that now. She told me you agreed. Home care was best. I wanted her evaluated for assisted living. Mom told me you thought I was trying to get rid of her. I thought you did. We stood on either side of the dresser, the pearls between us. She called you every Thursday, Celia said. Yes. She sat in that chair and told me you were too busy to talk. I looked at the recliner beside the window, its arms polished dark from 5 years of Celia sleeping in it. Her mother had not invented our resentment. She had only kept handing each of us the sharpest available tool. Celia gathered the pearls into her fist. 30 days, she said. Then she put them back in the box instead of her purse. We finished the dresser without discussing the phone calls again. Celia took 1 gold bracelet, 2 rings, and a pair of costume earrings shaped like lemons. I took the silver leaves. We placed the rest in a shallow box for later because grief had apparently left us incapable of deciding the fate of 14 tangled necklaces and a brooch shaped like a lobster. Mom wore that to church, Celia said. The lobster? Every summer. I'm reconsidering everything I knew about her. You missed her tropical phase. She never went anywhere tropical. That didn't stop her. At the bottom of the closet, we found unopened packages of disposable bed pads and a sealed case of nutritional drinks. Celia stared at them longer than their market value justified. I ordered those the night before, she said. Can they be returned? Probably. I'll call. I can do it. I know. You don't need to take over. I offered to make 1 phone call. You say it like 1 phone call. Then it becomes a list. Then you're running the whole thing. I don't want to run this. She crouched and pulled the case toward her. That's supposed to make me feel better? No. Good. We carried the medical supplies downstairs together. The next morning, Celia arrived wearing navy scrubs and running shoes. Her white streak was pulled back into a clip, and she had put concealer beneath her eyes badly enough that I could see exactly where she had put it. You working? I asked. 10 to 10. You said 1 shift a week. I picked up more. For the loan application. For money. People traditionally exchange labor for it. You haven't worked a 12 in years. I'm still licensed. That isn't what I said. She opened Mom's refrigerator and placed a plastic container on the top shelf. Dennis made chili. Don't eat all of it. How much is all? The whole container, so some is authorized. She shut the door. The roofers are coming between 9 and noon. They need access to the attic. I know. The case of drinks can be returned to the medical supplier. They're emailing a label. I know. Ruth might stop by for the Afghan on the couch. She says Mom promised it to her. Okay. The insurance company called about a photograph of the back steps. I sent it. Celia paused. When? Yesterday. You didn't tell me. I just did. She picked up her purse. The plumber's number is on the refrigerator if the downstairs toilet starts running again. It started yesterday. The flapper's warped. I replaced it. With what? A flapper. Where did you get it? A hardware store, Celia. Which one? I looked at her. She pressed her lips together. Fine. You're going to be late. I'm not late. You're standing in a dead woman's kitchen interrogating a toilet repair. She would appreciate the concern. That was probably true. Celia left through the back door, pulling it toward herself before locking it. I watched her hurry down the steps and thought about how many mornings she must have done the same thing after sleeping in the recliner. By 9:30, 2 roofers were on the south side of the house. The older one, Keith, showed me photographs of the failed flashing and cracked seal around a vent. The wood beneath was damp but not rotted. They replaced the damaged material, resealed the vents, swapped 9 shingles instead of 12, and cleaned enough leaves from the gutters to build a second, smaller tree. The final bill came to $1,640. Uncle Ray arrived while Keith was showing me the repair photographs. He stood in the driveway, hands in his coat pockets, watching the roofers pack their ladders. "Looks like you had it handled," he said. "It's flashing, Ray. Not a hostage situation." Mick told Celia half the roof was bad. Mick wanted $16,000. Ray whistled. "Did she sign anything?" $500 deposit. She got it back. How? She threatened his social life. That sounds like her mother. No, Mom would have invited his wife for coffee first. Ray laughed, then looked guilty about it. Keith drove away. Ray followed me into the garage where I folded the tarp we no longer needed. "I thought about what you asked," he said. "I ask a lot of things. How much money would make it count?" I continued folding. "You don't have to answer. No amount." Then we agree. "No. I mean, no amount makes you the same as Celia. I never said it did, but it counts." I looked at him. Ray rubbed at a varnish stain on his sleeve. "Your dad told me you cleared the second mortgage. He was ashamed. He didn't tell me. He made me promise not to tell you, he told me. That's an impressive circle. He said you called it a loan." I did. He knew you'd never collect, so did I. Ray nodded toward the house. "Celia won't be able to buy you out. She's trying. Working herself sick won't change the numbers. You should tell her that. She doesn't listen to me. She drove you here with boxes. That wasn't listening. That was deployment." I looked at him. He grinned. "I can learn words. At 2, I had a video interview for the fleet management job Tasha had bullied me into considering. I set my laptop at Mom's dining table and angled the screen so the ceramic goose was not visible behind me. The woman interviewing me was named Lorraine and wore red glasses. She asked how my experience translated to civilian operations. I told her vehicles still required maintenance, schedules still failed, and people still underestimated how long it took to move anything larger than a desk. She smiled. "How do you motivate employees without a military chain of command? Usually by asking what's preventing them from doing the work. And if the answer is attitude, attitude is rarely the whole answer. What's usually underneath it? Bad tools, bad instructions, no trust. Sometimes a manager who thinks repeating the deadline counts as leadership." Lorraine leaned closer to her camera. "And sometimes the person's just difficult. How do you manage that? I've spent 10 days in a house with my sister." Her laugh startled me. The interview lasted 40 minutes. When it ended, I remained at the table looking at my own face reflected in the dark screen. Without the small video window, I seemed older. Not worse, just unassigned. Ruth arrived for the Afghan carrying a grocery bag. "I brought soup," she said. "Celia left chili. Dennis puts beans in his. That's traditional, not 3 kinds." She folded the Afghan across her arms. It was brown and orange, heavy enough to restrain a medium-sized animal. Evelyn promised this to me after I said it was the ugliest thing she owned. The lobster brooch is making a strong challenge. She wore that to irritate the pastor's wife. I was told it was a summer tradition. Those can both be true. Ruth put the Afghan in her bag. "Celia says you gave her 30 days. We agreed on 30 days. She didn't tell it that way." "How did she tell it?" Ruth adjusted the bag handles. "She said you're making her prove she can afford to keep the house. That's what buying half a house requires. I'm not arguing. You came over with soup and an argument. The soup is separate." I stood and carried it to the refrigerator. Ruth followed. "She's scared. So am I." "Of what?" It was an intrusive question made worse by my lack of an answer. Making the wrong decision. "That isn't fear. That's your hobby. I'm out of practice with hobbies." Ruth touched my arm. Your mother depended on the distance between you girls. She could tell each of you what she needed you to believe. Did you know? I knew she edited. That's a polite word. I didn't know how much. Did she tell you not to mention my calls? Ruth looked toward the phone on the wall. She said Celia felt guilty enough. So you protected her by helping Mom lie. I protected Evelyn's pride. Same question. Ruth accepted that without defending herself. At the door, she said, "Your mother loved you." I know. She also used what worked. I'm starting to know that too. Celia returned after 10 wearing a jacket over her scrubs and carrying the smell of hospital disinfectant with her. She ate chili standing at the counter while I explained the roof repair. $16.40, she asked. Yes, that's less than the estimate. 9 shingles, not 12. She nodded. I'll transfer my half. Estate account covers it for now. You said we split expenses when it runs out. It hasn't. You already paid for everything else. This isn't everything else. She set down her spoon. I'm paying my half. Okay. The fight disappeared so quickly I almost missed it. She looked toward the dining room. How was your interview? How did you know? The laptop was out when I came by for my badge. You came back. You were upstairs. What time? 11. You didn't call out? I did. You didn't answer. I was in the attic. She finished the chili. Did you get the job? It was an interview, not a carnival prize. Did it go well? I made her laugh. On purpose. Mostly. Celia rinsed her bowl and left it in the sink. She looked exhausted enough that even criticizing my dishwashing procedure had become unaffordable. I'm working tomorrow, she said. Another 12? 8? Credit union asked for more current income. They want to see what I can sustain. Can you sustain this? I sustained worse. That's not an answer. She gave me the look I deserved for borrowing her line. The charity truck arrived the following morning. I had not scheduled it. 2 men began loading blue stickered boxes from the garage while Celia checked items against a list. I was carrying the medical drinks to my car when I saw one of my plastic tubs on the truck's lift. Stop. The man holding it froze. My name was written across the lid. Over it, Celia had placed a blue sticker. I climbed onto the lift and took the tub from him. There are 2 more, he said. They were behind it. I carried all 3 into the house and placed them on the dining table. Celia followed. Those were upstairs, I know. You haven't opened them in 26 years. I wasn't here for most of those. That's my point. They're mine. They've been taking up space in Mom's house. Our house. The words stopped both of us. Celia recovered first. So now it's our house when you want to store something. It became our house when Mom died. Those became mine when she wrote my name on them. She wanted the room cleared. She wanted everything and its opposite. You don't even know what's inside, neither do you. I know it wasn't important enough for you to take. I pulled off the blue sticker. Now, you don't decide that. Her face went flat. Fine. No. Not fine. You took Dad's toolbox too. It's safe. Where? At our place. Dennis said he hadn't borrowed it. I never said he borrowed it. You said he might have it. He does have it. It's in our garage. With a label? She didn't answer. What does the label say, Celia? Her eyes moved toward the charity workers waiting in the driveway. Dad, Celia, she said. There it was. Not theft, not confusion, allocation. You divided the house before Mom died. I was here. So you keep saying, because you keep acting like that means nothing, and you keep acting like it means everything. The men outside shifted another box onto the truck. Celia picked up her list. They're charging by the hour. She walked out. I opened the first tub. On top was the framed photograph from her nursing pinning ceremony. Celia stood in white beside Mom, who wore a blue jacket and pearls. No gray dress, no scarf. Behind the frame were 12 letters in my handwriting, each one returned to the house unopened. They were addressed to Mom in 4 different versions of my handwriting. The earliest had an APO address from Iraq. The last came from Afghanistan 11 years later. I recognized the envelopes by size and by whatever stationery had been available when I wrote them. Yellow legal paper, notebook sheets, army stationery somebody had ordered in bulk, one folded sheet torn from a maintenance log. All 12 were sealed. Celia came in carrying the empty donation checklist. "The truck's leaving." I held up the letters. She stopped. "These were in my tub. I didn't put them there. Mom did." "Then she wanted you to have them. She wanted me to have letters I wrote to her? Maybe she thought you'd want them back." Unopened. Celia dropped the checklist on the table. "I don't know why she did everything. Did you know these were here?" "No." "Did she read any of my letters to you?" "Sometimes she told me what you wrote." "Such as?" "That you were busy, that it was hot, that you couldn't say where you were. That describes every call. She said you asked about Dad's truck." "I always asked about his truck. You asked more about that truck than you asked about me." "That isn't true. It's what she said." I looked at the photograph again. Mom's blue jacket, Celia's white uniform, pearls around Mom's neck. The picture had been taken beside the stage in the community college auditorium. I knew that because Mom had described the red curtains and bad parking. "Did she tell you I called the morning of your ceremony?" Celia's face shifted. "You didn't." "I did." I reached Mom's cell. "You didn't speak to me. She said you were already inside and phones had to be off. We were still at the house until 11. She said the ceremony was at 10. It was at 1. I set the frame down. Celia sat across from me. "Why would she do that? Maybe she forgot the time. She drove me. Maybe she didn't want to hand you the phone. Why? I don't know. You keep saying that like it lets you out. It doesn't." The charity truck rumbled away outside. I spread the envelopes across the table in date order. Celia reached for one, then stopped before touching it. "Are you going to open them?" I wrote them. They were hers. "She's dead." Celia flinched. "I know," I said. "Still wrong. No, accurate." The word came back without heat. That made it worse. I opened the oldest envelope. The letter inside was mostly ordinary. A complaint about sand in vehicle filters. A description of a stray dog that slept beneath the shade of our maintenance tent. A request for Dad's chili recipe, followed by a warning not to let him substitute cinnamon again. Near the bottom, I had written, "Tell Celia the tuition money should arrive by Friday. Don't call it a loan. She won't take it if she thinks I expect it back." I turned the page face down. "What?" Celia asked. "Nothing useful." You made a face. I pushed the letter across. She read it once. Then again. "She told me it came from Dad's insurance." "I know. You said that at the will reading. I didn't know she told you until then. Why didn't you tell me?" "Mom asked me not to. You listened to her when it involved lying to me." "Yes. But you're surprised she lied to you." "Yes. That's almost funny." "Almost." Celia traced the edge of the paper. "I would have paid you back. I didn't want it back. That wasn't your decision. It was my money. It was my debt." We looked at each other. The same argument wore different uniforms depending on who needed it. She opened another envelope. I let her. That one mentioned Mom's first biopsy and asked Celia to call me directly if the results were bad. Celia read the line silently, then put the letter down. "She told me you didn't want details until you got home. I wanted every detail. You should have told me. I thought I did. You wrote it to her. You lived with her. That's not the same as writing to me." "No." The letters did not prove that I had been a good daughter. They proved I had tried to be one, through the person most invested in controlling the exchange. Celia gathered them into a stack. "Which deployments did you volunteer for?" I looked at the letter about her tuition, the Kuwait rotation after Dad died, and the last Afghanistan tour. Why? The first one came with a re-enlistment bonus and enough additional pay to clear the second mortgage. Her hands went still. "You re-enlisted because of the house?" "Not only because of the house, but partly. Yes." "What did Brian say?" My ex-husband's name sounded strange in her voice. She had disliked him before I married him and defended him after the divorce, which was one of Celia's more advanced contradictions. He said I was letting Mom make our decisions. He was right. Sometimes. And the last deployment? Mom's home care cost $18.50 a month, more when she needed weekends. The service didn't charge that much at first. No. Then she needed more hours. You could have told me we couldn't afford it. We could, because you left, because the unit needed a senior maintenance NCO, and I put my name in. For the money. For the money. For the unit. Because I knew the work. I looked toward the kitchen, where Mom's grocery list still hid behind the phone. And because being here for 3 days at a time made me feel like I was failing everybody. So you went somewhere you felt competent. Yes. That sounds convenient, too. It was. The honesty surprised both of us. Celia leaned back. While you were gone, Mom told everybody she was staying home because I wanted her here. She told me you refused to discuss assisted living. I made 3 appointments. I didn't know that. She canceled 2. At the 3rd, she cried in the parking lot until I drove her home. Why didn't you call me? I did. No, you didn't. I left a message on the number she gave me. What number? Some office in Virginia. My old battalion headquarters? I don't know. A man answered and said you were unavailable. How long ago? 2 years. I hadn't been assigned there in 4. Celia closed her eyes. Mom had supplied the wrong number. Maybe accidentally. Maybe because she knew Celia would try once, hate the humiliation, and return to the role Mom had prepared for her. Every time you sent more money, Celia said, she treated it like proof that staying was working. I thought I was making it easier for you. You made it possible. That isn't the same thing. From where I was standing, it was. My phone rang on the table. Lorraine's name appeared. Celia saw it. The job? Probably. Answer. I stepped onto the porch. Lorraine wanted a second interview with the regional director. I agreed to the following Tuesday before I could talk myself out of it. When I returned, Celia had placed the letters back in the tub. Well, second interview. Virginia, Pennsylvania. Regional office is outside Pittsburgh. You'd stay here? The job covers 3 states. That wasn't my question. I haven't decided. She gave a tired laugh. Of course. The credit union called that afternoon. Celia took the call in Mom's bedroom. I heard the floorboards creak overhead as she paced. Dennis arrived halfway through and waited in the kitchen without taking off his jacket. When she came down, she held the loan officer's checklist folded into quarters. They won't count the extra shifts yet, she said. Dennis stepped toward her. What will they count? My average income for the last 2 years. That was 1 shift a week. I know. What about mine? Not enough with the townhouse mortgage. We can sell. They want it sold before approving anything based on that. Then we list it. And live where while we wait? Here. She looked at me. 30 days isn't enough, she said. It was your request. It was Dennis's. I glanced at him. He shoved his hands into his jacket pockets. I thought it was enough to find out. We found out, Celia said. It isn't. We can extend the discussion, I said. She looked almost offended by the offer. How generous. What do you want me to say? That you'll wait until our place sells. That could take months. So? The estate account has $2,300 left. Taxes, insurance, utilities, and repairs. Don't wait because we're uncomfortable. I'll pay them. With extra shifts, the lender won't count. With my money. What happens if your townhouse doesn't sell? It will. And if you still can't qualify? Her face closed. Dennis said, Mara. No, we keep setting decisions just beyond the next thing. Appraisal, lender, your townhouse. Then what? You got 24 years to build your life, Celia said. I'm asking for a few months. You think I built something? You have a pension, savings, job offers. I have an air mattress and a duffel bag. By choice. So is your house. Dennis moved between us without making it obvious. Everybody's tired. Celia looked past him at me. Give us 90 days. I thought of the estate bills. I thought of the $214,000 and the way every emergency had become mine because I could cover it. 90 more days would not ruin me. That was exactly why saying yes felt dangerous. 60, I said. We split every expense from today. No assumptions. No bills left on the table for me to find. Her eyes hardened. You can afford more. That isn't the point. It never is when you have the money. Dennis watched her. Celia unfolded the credit union paper, smoothed it against the table, and nodded. 60 days. She left without the letters. That evening, I received a bank alert. The automatic transfer I had set up for Mom's household account was scheduled to leave in the morning. $1,200. The same amount on the same date as it had been for years. I canceled it. Then I sat at the dining table waiting for guilt to feel different from relief. Relief lasted until 6:14 the next morning when Celia unlocked the back door and found me drinking coffee. The transfer didn't come through. I set down my mug. Good morning. Did you cancel it? Yes. She dropped her purse onto the counter. She wasn't wearing scrubs. She wore jeans, a sweatshirt, and the expression of someone who had expected betrayal but remained offended by its punctuality. You canceled it without telling me. I canceled it last night. You're here before sunrise. I checked the account because the electric payment comes out Monday. Then we'll pay it. With what? The estate account. After that, we split bills. You said that money was for the house. It was for Mom. She lived in the house. She doesn't now. Celia's face tightened. I kept my voice level. I'm not paying $1,200 a month into an account because I always have. It covered groceries, utilities, medical supplies. For Mom and for me while I took care of her. There it was. Not hidden. Not theft. A fact we had both kept walking around because it complicated our preferred injuries. How much did you use? I asked. I didn't track every loaf of bread. I'm not asking for receipts. Could have fooled me. I'm asking what the arrangement was. There was no arrangement. Mom told me to use the household account for household expenses. Did you? Yes. Then okay. She blinked. Okay? You were living here to care for her. So why cancel it? Because she's dead, you're not living here, and we agreed to split current expenses. You could have warned me. You're right. The apology made her angrier. I could see it happen. Stop doing that. What? Admitting the smallest possible fault so you can keep the rest. I should have told you before I canceled it. Yes, I'm still canceling it. There. That's not a trick, Celia. It feels like one. She opened the refrigerator, saw the container of chili, and closed it again. The property tax payment is more than what's left in the estate account. We each cover half. I picked up 4 shifts. I know. The lender still won't count them. I know that, too. You keep saying we're equal because the will says we are. But equal costs more for me. That doesn't make me responsible for the difference. Her eyes glistened, though her voice stayed hard. No. You're done being responsible. I'm done being automatically responsible. Congratulations. She took her purse and left without doing whatever had brought her there before dawn. By 8, she had texted me 3 things that needed to be done. Return medical drinks, cancel Mom's cable, check if Ruth took Afghan. I replied, done. Yes. 3 dots appeared, vanished, and appeared again. Thank you, she finally wrote. For the next week, Celia worked enough hours to stop appearing in the house, except at odd edges of the day. She arrived at 6:30 in the morning to leave labels, lists, or food. Sometimes she came after 10 at night and stood in the dining room looking at what I had sorted as though evaluating the work of a contractor she distrusted but could not afford to fire. I returned the medical supplies. I canceled Mom's magazine subscriptions, including one devoted entirely to decorative gourds. I met the insurance photographer, tightened the loose rail on the back steps, and spent half a day removing adhesive shelf paper from kitchen drawers because Celia said buyers would think the orange mushrooms were hostile. She was right. One night, she left a paper plate covered in foil on the counter. Under the foil were 2 pieces of lasagna and a note. Eat this. You look narrow. I wrote beneath it, I have always been narrow. The next morning, she had added, now you look haunted and narrow? The fleet interview took place at the dining table again. The regional director, Calvin Price, asked fewer questions about vehicles and more about why I wanted to return to Pennsylvania. I didn't say I did. The position is based here. The position covers 3 states. True, but people generally sleep somewhere. I'm evaluating options. He smiled. Lorraine said you were direct. Lorraine was being polite. She wasn't. The job would involve managing maintenance schedules for municipal and commercial fleets from Pittsburgh to Northern Virginia, familiar work in civilian clothes, travel, but measured in nights instead of months. The salary was less than I had earned at the end of my service when allowances were included and more than I needed with retirement pay. It should have been an easy decision. Calvin asked when I could start. I'm settling my mother's estate. How long will that take? 60 days. You sound certain. I'm not. He laughed. That may be the first uncertain thing you've said. After the call, I found Celia in the hallway. She had entered without my hearing her and was holding 2 pharmacy bags that needed disposal. How much did you hear? People generally sleep somewhere. Did you need something? Mom's old medication. The pharmacy has a disposal box. I can take it. I'm driving past there. You're working? 7 to 7. You just worked yesterday. People traditionally exchange labor for money. You've used that line. It remains true. I took one of the bags. Did you sleep? Some. That isn't a unit. You retired. You can stop measuring things. Has the townhouse had any showings? It isn't listed yet. Dennis has to fix the upstairs bathroom vanity. I can help. She shifted the bag to her other arm. We can manage. I didn't say you couldn't. You don't have to solve that too. Then don't complain that I only send money. She went quiet. So did I. The hallway clock ticked between us. Dennis is home at 4, she said. The drawer sticks, and the sink has to come out before you can reach the bracket. I'll be there. Don't rearrange his tools. Are they labeled? She understood exactly what I meant. The toolbox is safe, she said. I know. I'll bring it back. I didn't ask you to. Yes, you did. I said I wanted it. I didn't say when. You never say when. You just remember forever. She left with both pharmacy bags. Dennis's townhouse sat 12 minutes away in a development built around a circular road where every unit appeared to have been assembled from the same pile of beige siding. Their place was neat, comfortable, and strangely free of Celia. Dennis's fishing magazines were stacked beside the couch. His framed photographs hung in the hallway. His coffee mugs filled the cabinet. The only evidence of my sister was a row of nursing shoes by the door, 3 houseplants in the kitchen, and a basket of clean laundry nobody had folded. She hasn't really been here in years, I said. Dennis looked up from the bathroom vanity. She lives here. I know. She picked the paint. It's beige. She picked a specific beige. Then I apologize. The vanity had pulled loose from one wall because the bracket had been fastened to drywall instead of a stud. We removed the sink, found the stud, and reattached the cabinet. Dennis held the light while I replaced the warped drawer slide. You ever think of doing this professionally? He asked. Bathroom vanities? Fixing things people installed badly. That describes most professions. He laughed. We finished in 2 hours. While Dennis reconnected the water, I carried his drill case to the garage. Dad's red toolbox sat behind a lawnmower beneath 2 folded patio chairs. The label was tied to the handle with twine. Dad, Celia. Dennis came up behind me. I told her that wasn't right. When? When she brought it home after the basement flood. That was 11 years ago. She said your mom gave it to her. Maybe she did. The will says tools get divided. I know what the will says. Dennis rested his shoulder against the door frame. You want me to put it in your car? No. You said you wanted it. I want Celia to hand it to me. Why? Because otherwise she'll spend the rest of her life saying I took it from her garage. He nodded. Fair. Also because she should have to decide. That part sounds less fair. It is. I left the toolbox where it was. Celia arrived while we were testing the sink. Her scrubs were wrinkled, and a smear of blue ink marked the side of her hand. You fixed it, she said. Dennis supervised. I reconnected water. He did that. She opened the drawer. It moved smoothly. "The realtor's coming tomorrow," Dennis said. Celia looked at the vanity, then at me. "Thank you." "You're welcome. Don't make it strange." I used a standard response. "You have an abnormal tone." Dennis turned on the faucet to hide a laugh. The townhouse went on the market 2 days later. It received one showing, then another. Celia began checking the listing every hour, correcting the description in her head. "They called the kitchen cozy," she said at Mom's dining table. "It means small. I know what it means. It is small. You rebuilt the vanity. You're not an appraiser. No one person should have that much authority." She nearly smiled. The estate account covered the electric bill and part of the property tax. Celia transferred her half of the remaining amount before I asked. I matched it. For the first time in 19 years, the house cost each of us the same amount. That evening, the sky turned green over the western ridge. My phone issued a severe thunderstorm warning. Wind pushed the trees behind the garage until their pale undersides flashed. Rain hit the kitchen windows in hard, separated drops. Celia texted from the hospital. "Check attic stain. Already dry," I answered. "Check basement window. Closed. Back door? Pulled toward me." The lights flickered. Thunder cracked close enough to shake the glassware in the dining cabinet. I walked upstairs and heard something scrape across the roof. The repaired flashing held. Water did not enter near the chimney. Then a branch struck the back slope with a sound like furniture dropped overhead. The ceiling in Mom's bedroom shuddered. A thin crack appeared above the closet. Water pushed through it in a dark line, gathered, and began to fall onto the blue quilt. I called Celia. She answered on the first ring. "What happened?" "Branch hit the roof. Water's coming through Mom's room. I'm leaving. You're working." My shift ended 6 minutes ago. Drive slowly. Move the jewelry. Not the whole dresser. The top drawer comes out. The photograph albums are under the bed. Don't put anything in the hallway because the ceiling there stained last winter. You said there was no water intrusion. I forgot about that. Useful timing. Mara. I've got it. The call ended. I pulled the jewelry drawer free, moved the albums, stripped the quilt from the bed, and dragged plastic tubs beneath the leak. The crack widened while I worked. 22 minutes later, the back door slammed. Celia came upstairs soaked through, still wearing her hospital badge. She took one look at the ceiling and dropped her bag. "Tell me where you need me." "Attic. I need plastic sheeting, the staple gun, and every towel we don't care about. We don't care about the flowered ones. They shed." "I know." She kicked off her wet shoes and ran toward the linen closet. I climbed the attic ladder with a flashlight between my teeth. The branch had punched through 2 shingles and split a section of decking near the back eave. Water blew sideways through the opening. Insulation beneath it had already darkened. Celia pushed a roll of plastic up through the hatch. "Staple gun? In my pocket? Towels?" "You said every towel." "I have 2 arms. Plastic first." She climbed up after me, dragging the towels in a laundry basket. The attic was too low to stand except along the center beam. Wind drove rain against the roof so hard that normal speech became useless. I pointed to the far side of the opening. Celia nodded. No argument. No demand for a full briefing. I spread the plastic over the wet insulation and angled it toward a storage tub. Celia held the edge while I stapled it to the rafters. Water pooled, found the slope, and ran into the tub instead of the ceiling. The branch shifted above us. Celia's eyes widened. "Outside problem," I said. "What?" "Outside problem." "I heard you. I disagree with the classification. We can't fix it in this wind." "Then what are we doing?" "Reducing damage." That sounds like something printed in your green notebook. It might be. The power went out. The attic disappeared except for the thin cone of my flashlight. Celia's hand closed around my forearm. "I'm here," I said. "I know where you are." Her grip stayed. We crawled backward toward the hatch. She went down first, then held the ladder while I passed the half-full tub to her. By the time we reached Mom's bedroom, water had soaked through one corner of the ceiling and splattered the bare mattress. "You said the albums were under the bed," I said. "They were. There's nothing there." Celia looked around. "Closet shelf. You specifically said under the bed. I moved them when hospice brought the medical bed. When? February. Then why did you tell me under the bed?" "Because my brain is full, Mara. Closet shelf, top left." I found 4 albums and passed them to her. She carried them into my old bedroom where the remaining plastic tubs formed a wall around the air mattress. A second crack appeared in Mom's ceiling. "Dresser," I said. "It's solid maple. Drawers out. We slide it. You cannot move that alone. Then help." We removed the drawers and shoved the frame toward the hall. One leg caught in the carpet. Celia crouched, pulled the rug free, and nearly went backward when the dresser shifted. I caught her under the arms. "I'm fine," she said. "You're welcome. You pushed it. You pulled the obstruction. Because you didn't see it. Teamwork. That isn't what teamwork means. It's exactly what teamwork means." We got the dresser into the hallway. The ceiling released a sheet of water onto the spot where it had stood. Celia stared at it. "Okay, strong analysis. I'm acknowledging that you were right. I want a witness." Mom saw. We both looked toward the empty bed. "That doesn't count," Celia said. "No." For the next hour, we moved boxes, spread towels, emptied tubs, and carried anything vulnerable into the front bedroom. Celia knew where everything was until she didn't. I knew how to organize the work until the house produced something I hadn't anticipated. A plastic tub split when I lifted it. Christmas ornaments rolled across the floor. Celia trapped a glass angel beneath her foot before it reached the stairs. "Don't move," I said. "I wasn't planning to." I collected the other ornaments and took the angel from beneath her shoe. Mom had painted it during a craft class at church. One eye was higher than the other, and the gold halo leaned like it had received bad news. "Red sticker," Celia said. "Obviously." Thunder shook the house. She laughed. Not a careful breath or a noise she tried to swallow. A full laugh, exhausted and badly timed. I started laughing too, still crouched on the wet carpet with the crooked angel in my hand. "What?" I asked. "Nothing." "You're crying. I'm wet. Your face is above the leak. I'm tired." That was true enough to let us both stop. Dennis called. Celia put him on speaker while wringing out towels in the bathtub. "The road by the hospital is flooded," he said. "You okay?" "The roof has a branch in it." "Is Mara there?" "No, I drove over to tell the rain to stop." "Then you're fine. Your confidence is offensive." I tied down the patio furniture. "I'm coming over when the road clears. Bring coffee. It's midnight. Then you have time to make it." She ended the call. I found 2 dry sweatshirts in one of my tubs. One said Army across the front. The other had a faded picture of the Grand Canyon. Celia took the Grand Canyon. "Afraid of stolen valor?" I asked. "I've been to Arizona. That isn't what it means." "I know what it means." We changed in separate rooms. Her wet scrubs went into the dryer with the blue quilt and every towel we had used before the rain overwhelmed them. The temporary channel in the attic held. Water still dripped through the damaged ceiling, but slowly enough that one tub could manage it. We sat on the kitchen floor because the chairs were covered with rescued boxes. I opened Dennis's chili and handed Celia a spoon. "There's one spoon," she said. "We'll alternate. That's disgusting. We share DNA. Not an immune system." I found a plastic fork in the junk drawer. By flashlight, the kitchen looked smaller. Wind pressed at the windows. The refrigerator clicked uselessly in the dark. Celia ate 2 bites, then said, "I knew." "About what?" "The money. Not all of it. Not the tuition." She scraped the fork along the side of the container. "But I knew you sent something every month. Mom showed me the account when I started paying bills. You said Dad's insurance covered school." "That's what she told me then. I mean later, the roof, the taxes, the home care service. I knew." I rested my spoon on my knee. "She called it your allotment," Celia said. "Like the Army issued her $1,200 because she gave birth to you. That would have been an unusual benefit." I didn't add it up. I did. I know. Why didn't you say anything at the will reading? What was I supposed to say? Thank you for financing the room where I emptied her catheter bag. No. Then what? I don't know. Your favorite answer. I'm starting to understand why. She ate another bite. I told myself the money was easy for you, she said. You had housing, health insurance, a pension coming, extra pay when you deployed. It was easier than being here. That's not the same as easy. No. Did Brian leave because of Mom? The refrigerator clicked again. Not only Mom. What happened? We had a savings account for a house. Dad died. Mom was behind. I sent $38,000. Celia's fork stopped halfway to the chili. You sent her $38,000 at once? 23 first, the rest after the bonus cleared. Did Brian know? After. Oh, Mara. He knew she needed help. That is not the same as knowing you emptied your savings. I didn't empty it. You're doing it again. What? Making it smaller because you've seen worse. I looked at her. She raised one eyebrow. Fine, I said. He was furious. He had a right. Yes. Did you apologize? Eventually. And he said he didn't want to build a life where every plan required my mother's approval. That sounds like Brian. He wasn't wrong. Did he ask you to choose? No. I made that part up because it was easier to be angry at him. Celia set down the fork. You told me he hated the army. He hated being married to somebody who always had a reason not to unpack. The rain softened for a moment, then returned against the windows. I took the last Afghanistan rotation 6 weeks after he filed, I said. The unit needed someone. Mom needed the home care money, and I needed a place where every problem came with a checklist. You ran away, yes. She looked surprised that I admitted it. I also did the job, I said. Both can be true. I didn't know. I didn't want anybody here to know it cost me something. Why? Because then Mom might stop asking. Celia gave me a long look. You didn't want her to stop, she said. No. The answer sat between us. Being needed had been the language Mom and I spoke best. She described a crisis. I solved it. For a few days, sometimes a few weeks, I knew exactly what kind of daughter I was. Celia leaned her head against the cabinet. I didn't want her to move, she said. You made 3 appointments. I wanted her to want to move. I wanted her to say, Celia, you've done enough. Go live your life. She was never going to say that. I know. Did you want the house, or did you want it to mean she knew? Celia's eyes filled. Both. There was nothing useful to say, so I gave her the spoon. She took it. I told Ray you came back for the house, she said after a moment. I guessed. And Ruth. She brought soup about it. I said you were turning everything into numbers. I did bring a notebook to a will reading. You always have the notebook. I know. I made it sound like you'd been waiting for her to die. The sentence was ugly enough that neither of us could soften it. Why? Because everybody was looking at me like I'd won. Then the will said equal, and I felt stupid. So you made me greedy. I made you absent. That part was easier. I stared at the dark window. I made you a martyr, I said. You didn't have to work hard. I told myself staying was what you wanted, that you liked being the one in charge. I did like it. Both can be true. She took another bite of chili. I hate when you learn things. The lights came back on. The kitchen flooded with yellow light. The refrigerator hummed, the dryer resumed turning, and Celia squinted at me as though I had personally restored power too brightly. Dennis arrived at 1:30 with coffee, dry socks, and a blue tarp large enough to cover the garage. The wind had weakened. We went outside with flashlights and assessed the branch from the ground. It had broken from the maple behind the house and lodged against the gutter, one end resting on the roof. Tree service at daylight, I said. Insurance first, Celia said. Photographs first. I already took them. I looked at her. She held up her phone. Respectful face, she warned. I gave her one anyway. By morning, the rain had stopped. The insurance company authorized temporary removal of the branch and emergency covering. The deductible was $2,000. Celia stood beside me on the porch while the tree crew unloaded equipment. $1,000 each, she said. Yes. I can transfer it Friday. Okay. No argument? You stated your half? She shoved her hands into the Grand Canyon sweatshirt. I'm learning. The realtor called Dennis while the crew cut the branch away. They had an offer on the townhouse. It was $11,000 below the asking price. Dennis put the phone on speaker. The three of us stood in Mom's driveway smelling wet leaves and cut wood while the realtor explained the terms. We should take it, Celia said. Dennis looked at her. It still doesn't get us enough for the buyout. It gets us closer. Closer isn't a mortgage approval. We'll figure out the rest. I watched the workers lift the broken branch from the roof. Beneath it, the hole looked smaller than it had sounded in the dark. Celia turned to me. Would you wait past 60 days if we accept? There were a dozen ways to answer. Most of them would have returned us to our assigned positions. I won't keep extending deadlines while you sell your life for this house, I said. It's my decision. Yes, then let me make it. You're trying to make Mom's decision come true. Her jaw tightened. Dennis ended the call with the realtor and walked toward the garage, giving us privacy neither of us wanted. Celia looked up at the damaged roof. If I let it go, she said, what were those 5 years for? I thought of my unopened letters, my failed marriage, 6 deployments reduced to fingers on her hand. Maybe they already happened, I said. Maybe the house doesn't get to tell us whether they counted. Celia didn't answer. The tree crew lowered the last section of branch into the driveway. Wet leaves slapped the pavement. One of the men held up a piece of splintered roof decking and asked whether we wanted it. No, Celia and I said together. He dropped it into the truck. The offer on the townhouse remained open until 6 that evening. Celia and Dennis went home to discuss it. At 5:42, Dennis texted me. We accepted. I typed congratulations, deleted it, typed good, deleted that too, and finally sent a thumbs up that made me feel 90 years old. The house grew louder before it became quieter. Insurance sent a restoration company. Fans ran upstairs for 4 days. Workers opened the damaged section of ceiling, removed wet insulation, repaired the decking, and replaced shingles beneath a blue tarp that snapped all night in the wind. Mom's bedroom furniture remained crowded into the hallway. Her jewelry sat in a dresser drawer on my air mattress because Celia trusted neither the workers nor me alone with it, though she never said which concern was greater. We split the deductible. Celia transferred her $1,000 first. When the restoration company found an older water stain beside the closet, the portion insurance did not cover cost another $680. She paid half of that too. No bill appeared on the dining table without a conversation. No money moved automatically. The arrangement took more time than sending a check, which was probably why I had avoided it for 19 years. Celia kept working shifts. I kept handling the house. She texted lists, and I stopped resenting every item as an order. Sometimes I replied with questions. Sometimes she admitted she didn't know. The first time she wrote, "Use your judgment," I took a screenshot. The credit union recalculated after the townhouse contract arrived. Celia asked Dennis and me to meet at Mom's house after her shift. She had laid out the loan papers at the same table where the will had been read. Her yellow legal pad sat beside them. Dennis remained standing. How short? I asked. Celia slid one page toward me. $34,000. After the townhouse equity? Yes. And closing costs? Yes. The lender won't increase the amount? Not until they can count my full-time income. You don't have full-time income. I could. That doesn't change the last 2 years. I understand how averages work. Dennis stared at the fake ivy over the window. Celia folded her hands. I have a proposal. No, Dennis said. She looked at him. You don't know what I'm going to say. I do. We discussed it. You discussed it. I said it was a bad idea. Her eyes turned back to me. You could lend us the difference. The room did not change. Nothing dramatic happened. The refrigerator continued its slow hum. A car passed outside with music playing too loudly. Mom's ceramic sugar bowl sat in the center of the table because Dennis had moved it out of throwing range weeks earlier and nobody had returned it to the kitchen. You want to borrow money from me to buy my half of the house, I said. "We would repay you." "With what?" "My full-time salary, the salary the bank won't count. They won't count it because I haven't started yet, not because I can't earn it. Have you been offered a position? My manager said they need people. That isn't an offer. It could be." "Celia." $500 a month. More when we can. At $500 a month, that's almost 6 years without interest. We'd pay interest. From where? Her face flushed. "You can afford to wait." There it was again. Afford became so easily in this family that we had stopped hearing the hinge. Dennis pulled out a chair but didn't sit. We shouldn't ask her. Why not? Because we're asking her to finance us buying something from her. She financed Mom's life for years. That doesn't help your argument. I'm saying she knows we repay what we can. "What have we repaid?" he asked. Celia looked at him as if he had changed sides in a war he had spent years trying not to join. "I gave 19 years, she said. "To your mother," Dennis replied. "Not to Mara." The words hurt her. I saw that, and so did he. He sat beside her. "I'm not saying it didn't count. It sounds like you are. I'm saying she doesn't owe us a loan because you cared for Evelyn. You wanted this house, too. I wanted you to have what you wanted. And now? Now I think you're trying to make the house say, thank you." Celia shoved the papers into a pile. That line sounds like her. "It's mine." She turned to me. "You told him." "I told him what?" "That I wanted the house to prove something. I said it to you in the driveway. So now you two discuss me. Not everything is a campaign. Easy for you to say. You're winning." I put my palms flat on the table. "This is not winning. You get half the sale price and a job and your pension, and I get to move twice. You had a house. I had a townhouse. You selected the specific beige." Dennis looked at me. Not the moment. He was right. Celia pushed the loan page closer. $34,000. That is less than 1/6 of what you sent home. I know. You wouldn't even miss it. I missed all of it. She went still. "I missed every dollar because it went somewhere I wasn't," I said. "I sent it because I loved Mom. I sent it because I loved you. I sent it because fixing the emergency let me feel like I belonged here without asking whether either of you wanted me in the room. I'm not doing that again. This isn't an emergency. Then you don't need my money. I need the difference." "No." Her mouth hardened. "That's revenge. Some of it probably feels like revenge. At least you admit it. I'm not punishing you. I'm refusing the same job." "What job?" "The one where everyone decides what they need, checks what I can afford, and calls the difference mine. You said you would help. I will help you pack. I'll move furniture. I'll cover exactly half the expenses here. I'll spend days, not dollars. I don't need a mover. That's the help I'm offering." She looked down at the yellow legal pad, then at my green notebook on the sideboard. "I already sent home enough," I said. Celia stood. Dennis reached for her hand. She moved before he could touch it. "I have to work." "It's 9 at night," he said. "I picked up 11 to 7. You worked 7 to 7. They're short. So are you." She took her jacket and left through the front door. Dennis remained at the table. "I'm sorry," he said. "You didn't ask." I knew she was going to. "Why come?" "Because if I didn't, she would have asked you alone and told me you offered." I looked at him. He rubbed both hands over his face. "Not lied, just rearranged the conversation until she could live with it. We're good at that." He gathered the loan papers and followed her. Uncle Ray arrived the next morning. He did not bring boxes. "Celia called," he said. I assumed. "She says you won't help with the buyout. I won't lend her $34,000. You've got it, do you?" He frowned. "That's not the point. It's exactly the point. You have retirement savings. You have a paid-off Buick and a cabin near Tianesta. My cabin has nothing to do with this. Neither does my retirement account." Ray shifted his cap in his hands. "She'll lose the house. She can't lose something she doesn't own alone. Your mother wanted—" "Stop." He stopped. I had never raised my voice to Uncle Ray. I didn't raise it then. The word came out tired, not sharp. "Mom wrote equal shares. I said. Then she spent years telling everyone Celia would get everything. She let Celia build a future around something she did not leave her. I didn't do that. You could fix it. I could pay for it. What's the difference? If I fix it, Celia gets the house and I become the person who made it possible. Again. Then if the furnace dies or taxes rise or she works fewer shifts, whose problem is it? She wouldn't ask. Ray hurt himself. I waited. He looked toward the stairs. She might. Yes. Ruth came in without knocking, carrying the ceramic goose. I am returning this, she announced. Why do you have it? I asked. Celia left it in my trunk after the funeral. She said Grandma's goose couldn't be donated. It watches me sleep. That's Dennis's complaint. Dennis is right. Ray pointed toward the kitchen. We're having a family conversation. You're pressuring Mara to give Celia money. He looked offended. Celia called you too? No. You always use your left hand to crush your cap when you think you're being noble. Ray looked at his hand and released the cap. Ruth placed the goose on the table. If Celia needs $34,000, you can lend it. I don't have $34,000. Then you and I are equally generous. I came to talk. So did I. I brought the goose for authority. I laughed despite myself. Ray did not, but he stopped arguing. Celia avoided the house for 3 days. On the 4th, she arrived in ordinary clothes at 4 in the afternoon. The restoration crew had finished the ceiling. Mom's bedroom smelled of fresh plaster and primer. She walked through each room without commenting on the boxes or the furniture. My manager offered me full time, she said. Are you taking it? Yes. Because of the loan? No. She touched the repaired wall. The bank still won't count it soon enough. I waited. We're accepting the townhouse offer, she said. We'll rent after closing. Okay. And we're listing this house. The words left her carefully, like objects carried downstairs. I'll call the realtor, I said. No, we called together, so we did. The realtor who had listed the townhouse came the following afternoon. Her name was Dana Patel. She walked through the house, suggested neutral paint in the upstairs rooms, fewer pieces of furniture, and the immediate removal of the fake ivy. Celia objected to the ivy. I removed it while they discussed commission. We signed the listing agreement at Mom's dining table. Before Dana placed the sign in the yard, she asked if we were ready. Celia stood at the front window with the blue scarf looped once around her neck. No, she said. Then she nodded for Dana to do it anyway. The first showing was scheduled for Saturday morning. Celia arrived at 7 with a vacuum, a bag of lemons, and 3 white towels nobody was allowed to use. What are the lemons for? I asked. They make the kitchen look fresh. They make the kitchen look like we forgot groceries. Dana said a bowl of fruit. She said neutral staging. Lemons are neutral. They're aggressively yellow. Celia arranged them in Mom's blue glass serving bowl. I looked at the bowl. She looked at me. Dad drained lawnmower oil into that, I said. I washed it. With what? Actual soap? Growth. We removed the last red-stickered boxes from the living room. I took down family photographs because Dana said buyers needed to imagine their own lives on the walls. Celia followed behind me, touching the pale rectangles left in the paint. She had started full-time at the hospital 3 days earlier. Her manager gave her 4 10-hour shifts instead of 5 8s, which Celia described as merciful, and Dennis described as 40 hours wearing shoes designed by a sadist. At 9, Dana arrived and told us to leave. Both of us? Celia asked. Buyers are more comfortable when owners aren't watching them. I wouldn't watch. I looked at her. I wouldn't speak. Dana looked at me. She would communicate with her eyebrows, I said. We drove separately to a diner 6 miles away and sat in a booth beneath a framed photograph of downtown Pittsburgh from before any of us were born. Celia checked her phone every 90 seconds. They're 20 minutes late leaving, she said. Maybe they like it. Maybe they found something. There are many things in the house. A problem. They had an inspection report. That was an appraisal. Dana gave them the disclosure. She could have missed the outlet. You wrote the outlet down. The upstairs window sticks. You wrote that down too. The water pressure drops when the washing machine runs. Celia? What, eat your eggs? She looked at my plate. You put ketchup on yours. Don't change the subject. Dana called after 45 minutes. The buyers liked the house. They wanted to know whether the dining cabinet could remain. No, Celia said immediately. I had assumed the cabinet would stay. It was too large for either of us and had not been listed among the things we wanted. Dana heard her through my phone. The sellers would prefer to retain it. After the call, I asked, "Where are you putting that?" "I don't know. Your rental has a dining room? It has an area." "How wide is the area?" "I haven't measured." I took out my green notebook. "Don't. Useful numbers. No notebook." She reached across the table and took it from me. I let her. The buyers made an offer that evening, $10,000 below asking, with a request for a credit toward the damaged bedroom ceiling, even though it had been professionally repaired. Celia wanted to reject it. I wanted to counter. We argued for 14 minutes and discovered those positions were not opposites. Dana sent back our counter. The buyers raised their price and dropped the ceiling credit. The final number was $3,000 below the appraisal. Celia signed first. Her hand shook only once near the end of her last name. The inspection found nothing we didn't know. Aging electrical panel, slow drain in the upstairs bathtub, evidence of the storm repair. The buyers asked for the panel to be serviced and the drain cleared. We agreed. The house was under contract. Uncle Ray came for Dad's fishing rods and pretended not to notice the for sale sign. Ruth took the lobster brooch, 2 pie plates, and the ceramic goose. "You hate the goose," I said. "Yes, why take it?" "Dennis offered me $50. Dennis looked at Celia. "Worth every cent." Celia placed the goose in Ruth's trunk facing backward. The remaining furniture and household items went into an estate sale. Dana recommended a woman named Peggy who priced everything with small white tags and referred to Mom's dining chairs as mid-century adjacent. "They're from 1987, Celia said. "Everything is adjacent to something," Peggy replied. On the first morning, people lined up beside the driveway before we opened the door. I recognized half of them from the viewing. They entered speaking softly, then began bargaining over Mom's lamps. The church woman who had called me the military daughter picked up the watercolor of the barn. "This was Evelyn's favorite," she said. "It spent 6 weeks on the disagreement table," I told her. "Celia says you're selling the house. We're selling it." She lowered her voice. "It must be hard for your sister after everything she did. It's hard for both of us." "Oh, of course." But Celia was here. Celia was 3 feet away, wrapping a set of glasses in newspaper. I expected her to let the sentence stand. It had supported her for years. Instead, she said, "Mara kept this place standing." The woman looked between us. Celia folded the newspaper over another glass. The roof, the furnace, Mom's care. Most of it came from her. I did not rescue the woman from her discomfort. She bought the watercolor at full price. By the end of the sale, the house echoed. The dining cabinet remained because Celia had priced it high enough to frighten buyers away. She admitted this while Dennis and I were trying to angle it through the front door. "It comes apart," she said. "It does not," Dennis said. "Mom told me it did. Your mother told people what she needed them to believe." All 3 of us stopped. Then Celia laughed. We removed the doors, wrapped the cabinet in blankets, and got it into the rented truck with half an inch to spare. It fit in the area at their rental only after Dennis moved a bookcase into the bedroom. The townhouse closed 6 days later. The equity was less than Celia had expected after fees, repairs, and the remaining mortgage. It would have reduced the amount she needed from me, but not eliminated it. She did not ask again. Their rental was on the 2nd floor of an old brick building with wide stairs and narrow turns. I arrived at 8 with work gloves, tie-down straps, and coffee for 3. Celia opened the door. "I thought you'd hire somebody," she said. "I said I would help you move. You have a second interview. It's at 4. You'll smell like furniture. The position involves fleet maintenance. They'll survive." We carried boxes until our arms shook. Dennis handled the truck. Celia directed traffic from the landing until I handed her a box and told her leadership required participation. At noon, we ate sandwiches sitting on the floor between stacked cartons. The blue scarf was looped around the back of Celia's chair. She had kept it. "You should," I said when I noticed. "I should what?" "Keep the scarf. You sent it to Mom for your ceremony. She never wore it. Somebody should." Celia rubbed one silver thread between her fingers. "It's scratchy. 19-year return policy expired. I'll suffer." Calvin offered me the fleet job at 4:37. I asked for 2 weeks before starting. He said he could give me 10 days. I said 12. We settled on 11. Tasha called 5 minutes after I accepted. "You're going civilian," she said. I was already civilian. You know what I mean. I'll still tell people what they're doing wrong. Then you'll adjust. The regional office was 40 minutes from Mom's town. The job required travel, but no deployment longer than 4 nights. Calvin described that as extensive. I chose not to correct him. I had been looking at houses without telling Celia. Most were too large, too renovated, or decorated in enough gray vinyl flooring to suggest color had been outlawed. The one I wanted was a small white bungalow 15 miles from the regional office. Its kitchen needed work. The upstairs consisted of one narrow room with a slanted ceiling. Behind the house stood a detached cinder block garage with tall windows, a concrete floor, and an old wooden workbench bolted to one wall. The first time I walked into that garage, I knew where Dad's cast iron skillet would go before I knew where I would put my bed. My offer was contingent on Mom's house closing. The seller accepted. When I told Celia, she asked for the listing and studied every photograph. "The bathroom is green," she said. I noticed. Not pale green. Hospital curtain green. Paint exists. The cabinets are worse than Mom's. They're solid wood. The garage is bigger than the living room. Yes. She looked at me over the phone. "That's why you want it. It's one reason. What are you going to do in there?" "Fix things people installed badly." "Professionally?" "Maybe." I had already bought a damaged walnut side table from Peggy after the estate sale. One leg had split at the joint, and someone had covered the top with black paint. It waited in storage beside the skillet and the 3 plastic tubs marked Mara. "Send me a picture when you fix the bathroom," Celia said. "I can show you in person." She went quiet. "That too," she said. The final walkthrough of Mom's house took place on a Friday morning. The buyers came with Dana. They tested lights, ran faucets, checked the service panel, and admired the clean gutters. The woman buying the house stood in Mom's kitchen and said she loved the morning light. Mom had complained about that light every summer because it heated the room. I did not tell her. After the buyers left, Celia and I had 3 hours before closing. The house was empty except for cleaning supplies, our coats, and Dad's red toolbox in the dining room. I looked at it. Celia had removed the twine label. A pale strip remained across the handle where it had been tied. "I brought it this morning," she said. "I see that. It was always supposed to come back." "No, it wasn't." Her mouth tightened. We had gotten better at telling the truth without immediately rewarding each other for it. "No," she said. "It wasn't." I opened the lid. Dad's tools were arranged the way he left them, sockets set on the right, wrenches in the shallow tray, screwdrivers shoved wherever they fit. His old measuring tape had a piece of white adhesive around the case with Vance written on it. "You could keep some," I said. "I kept his level." "The good one?" "The yellow one." "That is the good one." "I know." I closed the box. Celia walked through the house once more while I checked windows and outlets. She stood in Mom's bedroom, looking at the new section of ceiling. The pale rectangles from the medical bed remained visible in the carpet. "I thought staying made everything mine," she said. I leaned against the door frame. "Not just the house. Her, Dad, all the stories. I thought if I admitted your money mattered, then I wasn't the only one who cared. You were the one who was here, and you were the one who made it possible. That wasn't always a favor." "No?" She looked toward the window. "I hated you for leaving," she said. "Then I used what you sent because refusing it would have made my life harder. I kept sending it because showing up would have made mine harder. You did show up sometimes. To fix something. You fixed a lot." I didn't stay. No. We let both statements exist. Downstairs, I put Mom's spare keys on the kitchen counter. Celia removed the grocery list from behind the phone. Keeping it? I asked. She folded it along the old creases. Cinnamon, twice underlined. She felt strongly. She already had 3 jars: preparedness, compulsion, family trait. At the front door, Celia locked the deadbolt and tested it once, then twice. We have to leave the keys, I said. I know. She put them beside mine. Dad's toolbox was too heavy for one person to carry comfortably, though I could have managed it. I took one handle. Celia took the other. On the porch, she paused. Your place closes Monday? Yes. You need help? The question was small. No debt inside it. No instruction hidden under concern. I could use help with the workbench. What time? 10. I work until 7. I can wait. She adjusted her grip on the toolbox. Don't send anything, she said. I wasn't going to. Good. We carried it down the steps together.